In the wilderness survival contest, distinguishing individuals isn't just enduring hunger, it's about having the courage to make your prey your fate. Some dedicate their lives to catching a 600-pound deer. Others capture a massive 1,082-pound live deer. Even more astonishing, he managed to take down a 900-pound moose with just a small knife. I'll share 4 gripping tales of wilderness survival, showcasing textbook examples of intense encounters with large beasts. This episode highlights a lone winner westward into the wilderness. Roland might not be a name you recognize, but anyone who's faced a bull solo knows the feeling well. When he confronted a 900-pound bull with a knife, which left you in awe. This genuine showdown crowned Roland as the wilderness's mightiest warrior. Next, I will use 40 minutes and 20,000 words to vividly detail for you how Roland survived alone for 100 days in the Arctic Circle and won $1 million. On the first day of arrival, Roland set his sights on the $1 million prize. The top priority was definitely building a shelter that would last him more than 100 days. December temperatures in the Arctic Circle can plummet below -40 degrees. He chose the toughest and most demanding building method. So, when Roland hoisted this long-dormant 180-pound boulder, it marked the creation of the toughest shelter in wilderness survival. He picked large stones for his shelter because they can absorb heat and release it slowly, keeping the space warm longer. Once the temperature falls, the stones gradually release the stored heat. Providing some heat indoors can help maintain a relatively stable indoor temperature, and the insulation effect can last for several days, a feature that wooden houses simply cannot match. Imagine when the cold winter arrives. Snow is flying outside, while inside it's as warm as spring, and you're sipping hot tea and enjoying a sizzling grilled steak. This feeling is truly delightful, but to enjoy it, bear a significant cost, as even a slight oversight could lead to serious injury or even lifelong disability. However, Roland, as the ultimate wilderness machine, is undeterred by difficulties in his pursuit of victory. Following a strenuous afternoon, the food storage framework started to form. This rugged style perfectly matches Roland's bold and open image. Besides building a safe and warm shelter, ensuring sufficient food supply is also a crucial task. Although Roland has yet to catch any protein sources, he won't miss any edible berries he can gather. He intends to keep the berries in tree trunks, letting nature dry them. When dried, the berries lose a lot of moisture, which keeps them good for more than a month. They can serve as emergency rations and provide some sugar, so even if he can't catch large prey, he can rely on these berries to survive for several days. The berries collected this time include 3 types: cranberries, blueberries, and the rarer sorghum berries, which have certain medicinal value. They help clear heat and provide extra health protection for Roland in the wilderness. Just when I thought Roland's start was quite smooth, compared to other participants, Roland is just a rookie picking berries and eating ants. On the first day, within a few hours, Sean successfully hunted a porcupine. Note the show's reminder, all hunting must follow local and indigenous rules. This season, some protected animals are off limits, posing future hunting challenges for Roland. Sean's successful start in hunting secured him over 10 pounds of protein. This porcupine laid a solid foundation for Sean's beginning. Besides Sean being well fed, Mark was catching fish tirelessly. He caught 2 trout, over 10 pounds each, in one go. With so many fish, he couldn't eat them all. Mark built a stone oven in the shelter. He built a stone oven and started smoking fish to preserve it. Roland's berry stash for storage wasn't quite enough in comparison. If you believe Mark just catches fish, you're wrong. As the fish cooked, he managed to hunt a squirrel. Amos also had success with fishing. He caught a 20-pound salmon, giving him a solid start to the season. Joe started hunting a squirrel compared to other contestants' beginnings. Do you still believe Roland had an easy start? There's no denying the strength of the contestants in Alone's 7th season. Time has zipped by, and we're now on day 7. Following 2 days of careful work, key component of food system, smoke vent, was finished. This allows for in the coldest winter, fire burning 24/7 in shelter. With the chimney finished, construction moved forward, ensuring no carbon monoxide worries even with a constant fire. Starting the second phase, to align with the size of this large food source, Roland picked logs around 20 centimeters thick, so each piece of black cloudwood weighed over 90 kilograms. I first believed Roland's stone shelter was the biggest ever built on the show. After watching the entire series, I was amazed to see him expand the shelter by chopping wood. It seems Roland's value continues to rise, yet every time he moves one of those massive logs, it takes all his strength. Among the participants, Perhaps only the wilderness machine Roland possesses such stamina. Building the stone house likely needs logs weighing 90 kilograms each. Gather at least 10 logs. Unlike those who've already finished the challenge, Roland aims to win the prize by constructing a shelter suited for enduring the Arctic Circle's harsh conditions. He prioritizes practical needs for stable living in his shelter design. The project was physically demanding, so he planned to finish the remaining work the next day. Despite lacking adequate food for 2 weeks, Roland kept going with the carbs from fireweed roots and his physical stamina. The progress of building the shelter was not hindered, and the 4 walls have now reached the desired height. The next task is adding a roof, as demonstrated by fellow participants. The thick logs, which served as support beams, were only used as roof rafters in Roland's hands, emphasizing the shelter's need for strong structural support. Yet, this strenuous work, roughly estimated, burns about 500 calories per hour, equivalent to the energy in 2 medium-sized apples. It's easy to imagine how formidable its power is. Roland understands the importance of having a safe and warm shelter when winter arrives. Even without securing food at first, Roland was set on constructing the strongest shelter in the Arctic Circle. With the last capstone set, the shelter was finished. The shelter was deemed finished, showcasing remarkable sturdiness. Even if a black bear danced on top, it would hold up effortlessly. To finish the roof, simply add moss and cover it with waterproof fabric. The gap left on the side was reserved for a chimney, indicating Roland's genuine intention to settle here for the long term. Although Roland appears unbreakable in front of the camera, he has been going through a tough time. While he managed to secure food for his cold-resistant shelter, he was frustrated by the absence of large animals in the 300-acre forest. He's very frustrated with the show's chosen location. For the last 2 weeks, lacking protein, he frequently ate fireweed roots to curb his hunger. Fireweed roots are starchy herbal roots that can help treat inflammation, relieve pain, and reduce fever. They can help with infections, so it's smart to collect and store them ahead of time in the gaps next to the food to address potential future food shortages. To quickly break this deadlock, he moved the gill net, which hadn't caught any fish for over 10 days, to deeper waters, hoping to try his luck by resetting the gill net. Then he headed to the snare trap he had set earlier, which had been empty for a long time. He caught prey, ending empty days. Confronted with this rare and much-needed protein source, Roland eagerly showed what eating raw meat entails. Don't try eating like this, folks. Eating wild animals directly can easily cause viral infections. It's highly discouraged to imitate this behavior. Roland does it because he's had this habit since adulthood. His body had developed antibodies and built up a tolerance for the intestines that other participants disliked. Roland, facing a scarcity of food, planned to clean and cook them. However, when he skinned the squirrel, after peeling the outer layer, the back skin became pale white. His abdomen skin stays blue, signaling the onset of harsh winter weather, meaning Roland has very limited time left to improve his shelter and stockpile more food. As the Arctic sunset on the 22nd day was about to descend, Roland's gill net finally yielded a long-awaited catch. At this moment, Roland's energy-depleted body finally found true salvation. An 8-pound trout can provide at most 5,000 calories, which falls short of the needs of a true wilderness survivor. Roland's daily metabolism and work in the Arctic demand roughly 3,000 calories. These 2 fish would barely keep Roland going for 3 days, so he must find a way to continue solving the food problem. However, as he comes ashore, he froze, unintentionally looking out to where something appeared to be observing him. To get a better view, Roland carefully zoomed in with his camera and was surprised to find it was a local, a big black bear. This was the first time Roland had encountered a large animal in this 300-acre forest. Both are staring each other down, tense and cautious. The black bear is curious, seeing the creature as tasty. From an ethological standpoint, bears usually evaluate unknown animals by watching them to gauge potential threats. The bear's intense gaze helps it judge if Roland's size and actions are threatening. However, while it was evaluating the risk, Roland was already imagining a barbecue feast. The main idea is that its fur can provide warmth, especially since the spot is downwind of the bear. This means the black bear can clearly detect its scent through smell. Any aggressive move at this moment could easily trigger the bear's flight response. He frightened the bear off. Considering environment and animal behavior, Roland plans to loop through the woods to try and catch the black bear by surprise. This task was tougher for Roland than any he'd faced before. An adult black bear weighs between 100 to 200 kilograms. Its bite force reaches 360 kilograms, and it can run at speeds of up to 56 kilometers per hour. This tests strength and memory. Every minor encounter challenges his survival skills to the fullest. Though he breathed rapidly and felt fear, the chance to win $1 million gave him the courage to hunt. Unfortunately, his starting position was too far from the black bear. By the time he returned to where he'd last seen the bear and scanned the area, but couldn't spot the big black bear. More crucially at this moment, Roland can actually smell the scent of fish and smoke wafting from his own camp. With over 1 billion olfactory cells, a black bear's sense of smell is 2,000 times more sensitive than humans' 5 million olfactory cells. A bear can easily detect food within a 5-kilometer radius. The scent carried by air currents is crucial in drawing black bears. The upcoming resource-scarce winter is likely to bring more frequent visits from these neighbors. Simultaneously, it heightens the risk of the 100-day survival challenge. Following the failed bear hunt, the net taught another lesson today.
Maybe that's my punishment for the terrible cursing I've done. Right now, I'm going on top to dig for roots.
Gathering roots and berries to fight hunger. Over 20 days since we began, Roland struggles to find food, relying on berries and roots to curb hunger. Meanwhile, neighbor Bridge is fishing, catching more than he can consume. He built a 3-meter-high platform just to store the extra fish meat. Mark took it to the next level, smoking fish almost every day in his shelter. The shelter is packed with fish, leaving no room inside. Outdoor oven smokes fish. Some excel in fishing, others in hunting. Impressively, the female contestant Kelly hunted a 30-pound porcupine. The porcupine's fur offers warmth, and its meat is quite fatty. A 30-pound porcupine offers much more energy than 4 trout weighing several pounds each. In addition, Kelly's hunting traps also caught a rabbit. Bridge managed to hunt a rabbit, and the rabbit's fur is valuable in cold winter. She caught 2 rabbits at once, allowing her to eat stew every day for a week. Tired of rabbit, she went fishing and unexpectedly caught a 30-pound giant salmon, which moved her to tears.
Look at this fish. Look at this fish. Oh, yes. Look at this trout. This is a fat trout.
The 7th season's alone contestants are exceptionally strong. Each could easily win in other seasons. At that moment, Roland's destiny shifted as he was about to head back after gathering berries.
Right up there behind this one rock ridge.
It seemed like a stroke of luck. Faced with such tempting super protein, Roland's inner strength surged, enabling him to harness the most formidable power he's ever known. At that instant, everything became a divine sword aimed at him, signaling the start of this epic battle.
We just hit that musk ox.
Feeling a twinge in his rear, Neo swiftly descended the slope. Roland trails behind, keeping a safe distance, as he searches for a hiding spot. Concerned it might flee and wary of retaliation, attacking now could meet fierce resistance from the musk ox. The safest strategy is to maintain a safe distance and wait for the right moment to strike. Roland followed the musk ox downhill, intending to shoot another arrow. He inconveniently realized he didn't have the tools he needed at that moment. He had to bide time for a perfect moment to act. Muskox is well adapted to cold. The muskox has skin up to 2 centimeters thick and a hefty layer of fat underneath. This structure causes wounds to bleed more slowly. Roland had to wait for more than 5 hours before he finally realized that he had lost too much blood. Roland was weary. He noticed the musk ox struggling to rise. As the sky dimmed, he readied his knife for a close combat attempt. After all, everything he wanted had to be fought for. The musk ox tried hard to fight back, but its old injury slowed it down. Its large size and poor agility made it seem like a lamb to the slaughter in front of Roland, who was armed with a small knife. With 2 critical and fatal strikes from Roland, combined with 6 hours of physical torment from the initial injury, the 900-pound musk ox finally fell.
I just stabbed this musk ox to death.
After countless desert battles in golden armor, I won't return until Lulon is won. After over 30 days of relentless effort, Lulon finally reaped the rewards of his persistence. You're more remarkable than guys watching from behind the screen post-shower. Once the thrill subsides, the priority is to keep the beef from spoiling. Roland decides to first remove the internal organs, as bacteria in these organs multiply 3 to 5 times faster than in muscle tissue. This approach swiftly cools the meat, slowing bacterial growth, which is vital for later processing. To extend storage time, he consumed ox heart while processing to boost his energy, while also replenishing some essential iron and protein. Every 100 grams of beef heart contains 15 to 18 grams of protein, contains 7 to 9 milligrams of heme iron, swiftly restoring nutrients to an energy-depleted body, reducing physical fatigue. It's crucial to mention that eating raw organs. Viewers shouldn't just imitate this, as eating raw food often causes food poisoning or parasitic infections for most people. Roland's body has adapted over years of eating raw food. While the antibodies are crucial, the Arctic nights remain full of unpredictable dangers. For his own safety, Roland had to temporarily set aside such delicacies and focus on gathering supplies for the 2.5-kilometer trek back to camp, farther than the 900 meters Jordan had to cover to reach his camp last season. Previously, he worked overnight to process a moose, but Roland opted against this strategy now. The primary reason is that his current area's ecosystem poses greater risks. In this area, night-active predators like black bears and wolverines have long prowled. Roland, a nighttime survivalist, avoids hauling beef through predator-filled darkness. To avoid risking his life, he prioritizes packing the high-fat organs into his raincoat to bring back to the camp. Just 100 grams of organ fat can provide 900 calories, enough to enjoy a luxurious wilderness feast tonight, while the rest will have to be processed the next day. Hopefully tonight the predators won't squander the musk ox, or else the folks watching will see what happens when Roland gets angry. On the 29th warm night in the Arctic, Roland had his most comfortable sleep. The ultimate relaxation allowed him to sleep until after 11 a.m. After a hearty breakfast, Roland geared up with bow and arrows. He started moving the muskox meat, knowing bears and wolverines could try to steal it. Black bears have a keen sense of smell, 2,100 times more sensitive than humans, detecting strong scents 10 kilometers away, the bloody smell of meat, which might draw predators. Luckily, he faced no ambushes en route. When he arrived at the muskox storage spot, he saw the main meat was intact, but the stomach on the rocks was gone. A bit had been eaten, but as Roland was about to start, he held up his bow and arrow, staring ahead. It was merely the wind rustling the leaves. A relief, as it was a false alarm. I initially believed another animal was approaching with supplies, but this heightened the risk during the dissection. Roland needed to stay alert. He began removing the outer skin, beginning with the legs, examining nutritionally. The leg meat has roughly 20% protein, including 8 essential amino acids, and its protein is highly digestible and absorbable, can reach over 90%, effectively promoting muscle growth and repair, ideal for gym goers and post-surgery recovery. Roland, a seasoned hunting guide, Roland has handled many large animals in his life, so dissecting this is practically second nature to him. While dissecting, he must stay alert to his surroundings to avoid predator attacks. To prevent predator attacks, and this premium tenderloin will be the best reward for a hard day's work. After hours of hard work, the meat scent drew a flock of crows, and the arrival of crows often signals other predators to track the food. So Roland must speed up the process, but it's impossible to bring all the meat back to the shelter today. Since the area has just been dissected, to prevent wildlife from devouring the remaining beef, Roland reluctantly moves the most valuable parts to the mountaintop. He hides them under branches and covers them with a full hide. He keeps just the muskox's head and belly at the initial spot to lure predators with their scent. He saves prime cuts. The scent at the original site is overpowering. Snow swirls around the Arctic Circle, but Roland's cabin is cozy as a spring day. And with a plate full of ox heart in hand, Roland is in his most comfortable state, savoring the delicacy. I believe there's nothing more wonderful than this moment. After enjoying this high-protein feast, the beef still needs to be moved. Even as snow descends from the empty sky, covering the entire land, it still can't stop his steps towards winning $1 million. However, upon finding the snow littered with erratic footprints, foreboding tightens his heartstrings. Arriving at the scene with bow and arrow, the muskox head is indeed ravaged by poachers, and the nutritious and flavorful ox tongue is also gone. Despite some losses, fortunately, the real hidden meat wasn't discovered. With this painful lesson, Roland realizes he needs to speed up the transportation of the beef to prevent further escalation of losses. However, walking in the blizzard, he can only haul a few dozen pounds of beef per trip, and with the 2.5-kilometer trek, he can manage up to 3 trips daily, and hopefully, in the days ahead, the meat won't suffer too severe losses. Perhaps for Roland right now, having excess meat could be somewhat inconvenient. With plenty of food, time has flown by, and it's now day 35. Roland has truly enjoyed these recent days in the Arctic. Walking 2.5 kilometers in freezing cold to haul the beef is now the toughest job. This is the toughest task. The land is covered in white snow. Roland must tread carefully with each step, but it also makes it easier to spot animal tracks left on the ground. By studying the track's path and the depth of its marks, it's highly likely that the bear eyeing the beef earlier is nearby and hasn't gone far. The beef has surely grabbed the bear's attention right now. No one, including Roland or the crew, explained what happened next. We aren't quite sure what exactly happened. Anyway, Roland suddenly ended up with a pair of plush gloves to fend off the winter cold. Maybe local protection rules played a part. The footage of Roland getting those black furry gloves wasn't shown. Seeing those black furry gloves, I realized Roland had hunted beyond muskox. Maybe he confronted the creature that took his ox tongue.
That's a bear right there. We'll fight, crawl, or swim, whatever we gotta do. I'm gonna let no stinking bear steal my meat out of my front yard.
Roland, we leave the episode seeing that bear off in the distance. Probably the bear, that's been raiding your musk ox. How rare is it to see a winter bear? The winter bear is somewhat of an oddity, and it makes them more unpredictable and potentially more dangerous. We saw that a bear, took your fish. So, after a fierce battle for survival,
Ideal time for a wilderness barbecue, despite disappointment. It was truly a feast, and the muskox testicles were the best source of energy at that moment. They're packed with protein, potassium, and fat, making them ideal for high-energy, low-food survival days in the wild. It's clearly the best premium supplement, especially alongside a half-pound of charcoal-grilled prime beef tenderloin. After this meal, Roland instantly feels like he's 18 again. Back pain vanishes, and after a meal, I relax on the bed. At this moment, there's nothing more pleasant in the world. After energizing with breakfast, Roland chose to focus on self-care. He took the leftover muskox brain, prepared to utilize its resources again. The cow brain contains a type of lecithin oil, which acts as a natural leather softener. Using it on leather gloves improves their flexibility and durability, while on the skin, it acts as a moisturizer, providing dual benefits. Minimizes moisture loss, shields against cold, keeping skin hydrated, preventing frostbite in winter. The essential aspect is its pure, additive-free nature, embodying the fundamental survival principles in the Arctic Circle. Set aside traditional biases and maximize the use of every part of the prey. To reach your goals, survival comes first, because $1 million can greatly alter your future. With predators like bears and wolverines often active in the Arctic Circle, Roland had to protect his beef, which was as valuable as gold. He didn't want to waste time dealing with these poachers. He constructed a solid wood meat storage box. Roland, with his daring approach, opted for thick logs over 15 centimeters wide, unlike those used for smaller creatures. Attempting to destroy and take food is simply absurd. Spruce branches line the bottom of the meat storage box, aiding in meat preservation. It also keeps crawling animals out, ensuring the meat stays uncontaminated. Pay close attention to wolverines, as studies indicate. Wolverines can smell food buried under 6 meters of snow, so the storage box must be tightly sealed and robust. In everyday life, Roland is a professional lumberjack. He's already mastered the art of using and cutting wood. Builds meat storage box with mortise and tenon design using wood. The wood's grooves and protrusions fit together securely, offering a more dependable hold than nails in cold conditions. This method is ideal for building outdoor survival structures. After setting the height correctly, then insert stakes into the ground at each corner of the icebox and tighten steel wires between the stakes to ensure that no large animal could overturn it. After 2.5 hours of busy work, Roland built a solid icebox and stored the long-term meat inside, using spruce branches to keep the pieces separate for preservation. To keep the meat from freezing together under the snow, Roland crafted a lid for the icebox and secured it. Wolverines and black bears would struggle with it, and even Roland would take a while to reach the meat. Roland's not alone in using this storage method. Joe also keeps his surplus fish on a 3-meter-high platform for safety. Despite Joe's efforts, Wolverine still managed to snatch the fish, forcing him to move it all into the shelter. Meanwhile, Mark, skilled in fishing, traps yet another fox. He caught another fox, and now he has plenty of food. Perhaps life has become too comfortable. Mark doesn't plan to kill this fox. He sets the fox free, realizing it might be worth more than just the animal itself. It could potentially be $1 million reward. When he checked the second trap, he was lucky enough to catch a rabbit. Mark's luck continues. Checking the gill net, the fishing net caught another big fish. I've never seen a contestant as lucky as Mark. Mark might be feeling unstoppable now, with more meat than he can possibly eat. So Joe decided to store his excess meat in the corner of the shelter. He dug a hole and used spruce branches to insulate it from the ground. He topped it with ice and snow, crafting a temporary wilderness fridge. Keeping it in the shelter keeps animals from snatching the food. Meet Kelly, the wilderness butcher, who sets up and depends on her hunting traps. She savored roasted meat daily, once snagging 4 rabbits in a day. Kelly's a rabbit-catching pro, with more meat than she can eat. Time flies. 45 days have passed. With hundreds of pounds of wild beef, surviving a 100 days seems within reach. However, numerous challenges remain, so he needs to gather as much of the precious musk ox fat, which is as valuable as gold. The fat from the musk ox's lower lip and inside the ears should sustain him for about 2 days. There's also a layer between the cartilage and meat that can provide enough energy for about 2 days. Roland works hard to gather fat because, in freezing conditions, the body uses internal fat for energy to keep warm and maintain its core temperature. Some energy supports basic metabolism, while the rest turns into heat to aid the body. To endure the cold, it's vital to keep eating enough fat in the wild to effectively face winter's tough challenges. In real life, Roland is an Alaskan wilderness guide. This led him to become the most versatile contestant in the competition. He wished he had been born in ancient tribal times, where he could have been a famous warrior. This shows his passion for survival in the wild and suggests a connection between his expertise and ancient survival skills. I wonder if you noticed a detail. With ample food supplies, Roland's food storage area was piled high, a wall full of dry wood, enough to meet a month's burning needs. This detail not only shows his respect for the unknown risks of nature, it underscores his readiness for potential threats, setting the stage for the tougher winter to come. As the sunrise on the 46th day cast its light on this cold land, the long-term solitary wilderness life made Roland feel a bit bored. So he decided to chat with the crows about life. Roland has a special fondness for crows because duck family animals have a tiny brain-to-body weight ratio, which gives them very high intelligence. When facing land threats, they actively emit low-frequency calls, allowing humans and animals to easily anticipate potential threats nearby, which alone can reduce the likelihood of animals being preyed upon. After opening up, Roland returned to the lake he both loves and hates, but the steep, 55-degree rocks on the shore made casting his fishing net a nerve-wracking challenge. Seeing the gentle lake surface reignited Roland's desire to fish, and he placed the net in the spot that had previously brought him 2 pivotal fish, hoping it would once again bring new hope. However, just as Roland made his wish, it unexpectedly came true. On the hillside over 100 meters away, a large herd of musk oxen was active. Such a spectacular scene of a beef feast is rare, even for the experienced Roland. If he catches a few more, how can the others compete? We could just watch Roland thrive solo in the wild, as he's far from starving. Facing a musk ox herd solo, relying on his experience and judgment, there are 2 high-risk outcomes of confronting the herd. Either you get trampled by the frenzied herd, or you scare them into a panicked retreat. More crucially, the fleeing musk oxen might accidentally wander into other contestants' areas, which not only fails to benefit him, but also increases his survival difficulty. Roland shifts his focus from chasing quick wins to reducing risks for long-term survival. Roland's food stock is ample for now, and his careful approach is praiseworthy. Just as Yang Guo honed his martial arts skills, Roland excitedly checked the fishing net the next morning, having envisioned a wilderness feast. Starting with fish head soup. Main course, charcoal grilled beef tenderloin, trout sashimi. Dessert, crispy fried fishtails. Enjoying such a lavish meal in the Arctic, Roland has definitely set a new standard for survival getaways. I just want to ask Roland, did you forget that you still have a stash of blueberries? Despite the harsh snow and wind, Roland ventures out with his walking stick. Despite his careful steps, nature still found a way to trip him up. Luckily, he avoided hitting the back of his head, or he might have been concerned about getting back up. My right knee's a bit sore, but it won't impact the competition. After getting up, I headed to the shore to check the fishing net. The wind and waves had already carried the net away from the shore, and seeing his prized possession gone made Roland erupt in a rant in his native tongue. He cursed the weather and Arctic fox, then needed to find a way to get the net back. After all, it was his only tool for obtaining the joy of a good catch. The next day, Roland found a 6-meter-long log and, risking falling into the icy lake, managed to rescue the fishing net from the water.
Hanging on me or anything. That was so damn.
Roland's survival challenge. By day 51, Roland's meat processing and camp upkeep tasks have paused. He decided to use his free time to accomplish something he had long planned. Roland had been puzzled by why a squirrel frequently lingered by the tree near his food without leaving. Today, Roland finally discovered why the squirrel lingered. It had stashed a bounty of mushrooms in the tree for winter. Roland found luck. He swung his axe to bring down the tree and grab mushrooms for a feast tonight. He swung his axe to chop down the tree and take the mushrooms, because tonight he planned to enjoy a long-awaited tomato mushroom beef stew. Its diet has led to taste fatigue, so it needs a change to refresh its palate. Mushrooms can provide the vitamins missing in winter. Studies indicate that squirrels shed around 1/3 of their body weight while hibernating, so it needs to store enough food to sustain life. Wow. Roland, you've had quite a feast, but have you thought about how the squirrel feels? How will the squirrel enjoy New Year's now? Roland retrieved the musk ox hide. The musk ox hide, repeatedly scavenged, was stitched with paracord. Create a backpack that can store small mushrooms. It can also be taken back as a highly memorable keepsake. If the squirrel could speak, it would likely send Morse code messages to wish Roland well. As winter progresses, the Arctic Circle's temperatures grow more severe. Currently, it's -15 degrees outside, and the food is covered in a thick frost. This means that indoor heat is rapidly escaping. To stay warm, to combat heat loss due to temperature difference, the fire needs to burn continuously. Additionally, all the snow outside must be piled against the outer walls. Roland does this because freshly fallen, unpacked snow typically contains 95% airspace. Air is a poor conductor of heat. It's well known that heat conducts slowly through air, and when snow covers a surface, the air trapped within acts like a thick air blanket. This layer of insulation efficiently prevents heat from escaping the food, while also preventing cold air from seeping indoors, thus providing excellent insulation. Roland's dual approach of active heat generation and passive insulation undoubtedly lays a solid foundation for the harsher winter ahead. With winter temperatures dropping, each contestant is keen on maintaining warmth in their shelter. Amos lit a big fire inside his shelter to stay warm, but he overlooked a safety aspect when constructing the fireplace, which led to the wooden walls catching fire. Although Amos quickly tried to suppress the fire, the dry winter air fueled the flames, making them fierce and unstoppable. To minimize losses, Amos took everything out. He knew the shelter was beyond saving, and it produced a lot of smoke as it burned. Amos had to leave the competition because his shelter was destroyed. But before departing, Amos started a bonfire to celebrate his win as wilderness survival champion. Amos gave the show memorable highlights, and the crew appreciates his dedicated efforts. On day 66, Roland didn't start his usual broadcast, but instead held a rare personal rock concert.
Cows and eat wild muskrat meat and squirrel mushroom stew. You are dead.
Well, that was fun.
Even with plenty of food now, without fat to resist the Arctic cold, survival is still challenging. This tricky issue prompted Roland to pick up his bow and venture into the 300-acre white terrain again, actively searching for resources to sustain him until day 100. For Roland, high-risk animals are no longer his target. Instead, he prefers prey that can be easily subdued under his weight without much resistance. He still has over 100 pounds of beef in his outdoor freezer, and the berries and fireweed roots hidden in his food are enough to sustain him until day 100. So the porcupine sneaking berries in the field became his next meal. With one swift move, the porcupine's berry feast became its final meal. Maybe it never realized until the end why neither bears nor wolverines could handle it, yet it was subdued by this two-legged outsider. Here's why. Porcupines have short legs and a top speed of just 3 kilometers per hour, forcing them to use spiky quills for protection, and these quills have tiny barbs, making them tough to extract once stuck in the skin. While they can deter bites from other animals, this defense mechanism fails against strong external forces. To avoid the porcupine's quills, Roland dragged it to camp with a rope. It was Roland's first time hunting a porcupine, but Kelly is already a seasoned porcupine hunter. Kelly hunted 3 porcupines this season. Imagine the snow falling heavily outside. You're in the shelter eating roast pork. This scene makes me willing to marry 10 wives. The shelter's decorated with hanging pork legs, and Kelly's hunting skills rival Roland's bull hunts. Despite having plenty of meat, Kelly decides to go ice fishing. It was a smart move because he landed a big fish, a hefty trout over 10 pounds, enough to last him 3 days, and he still has porcupine meat left. With fish meat piled, he struts in the snow, unconcerned about food and drink. His rabbit fur sweater showcases his skills, proving this season's contestants are truly strong. While contestants excel in other additions, Kelly crafted a rabbit fur top for warmth, overlooking foot care, which resulted in her withdrawal due to frostbitten feet. If Kelly had made rabbit socks, could she have avoided this fate? Kelly's withdrawal doesn't guarantee Roland's victory. This season's rules require contestants to survive for 100 days to earn the reward. Roland's journey is far from over. Suddenly, Roland has been in the Arctic for 72 days, aligning with Thanksgiving on November 27th in the US. The porcupine he caught a few days ago perfectly made up for the absence of turkey today, while also appreciating nature's bounty and the support provided throughout these days. The custom of eating turkey began to thank Native Americans for their help in 1620. The first European settlers who landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts on the Mayflower got assistance. They learned to recognize edible wild plants, nuts, and other survival skills, helping immigrants learn survival rules in North America until autumn 1621, when pilgrims celebrated their first harvest. Thank Native Americans for their assistance and God's blessings. They invited Massasoit and 90 Native Americans to celebrate the harvest together. This 3-day feast is considered the first Thanksgiving. Returning to the scene, Roland roasts the porcupine over the fire for faster processing. This technique not only keeps his hands safe from quills, but also preserves all the porcupine's fat. This approach eliminates the need to scrape off the fat with a knife. This technique looks impressive and skillful, fitting its bold and expansive image perfectly. Many early Native American tribes handled it this way. If you happen to catch a small animal while surviving in the wilderness, try this method for authentic taste. After 2.5 hours of roasting, the most succulent part is the pig's hind leg. Each bite is a delight, with the perfect blend of fat and lean meat, combined with the crispy pork skin entering the mouth, instantly unleashing the primal taste of the meat. The texture was rich, but not greasy. Perfect, leading Roland to voice his admiration. This was far more delicious than the month-old dried beef. While Roland's food supply is stable, daily trips to the now treacherous lakeside for water have become quite a hassle. The once easily accessible water source has become perilous and difficult to reach. The ice-covered rocks on the shore force Roland to step carefully with each move. A misstep could send him into icy 610-meter deep Great Anger Lake. You might be curious why Roland doesn't simply use the snow directly at this stage. Why not just boil the snow and drink it? Well, as it forms and falls, snow can pick up various pollutants, like salt. Boiled snow can contain animal feces, insect eggs, and bacteria, causing acute gastroenteritis. This may cause vomiting and diarrhea, heightening the risk of dehydration and hypothermia. Avoid using snow as a direct water source in survival situations unless essential. Remember, snow carries pollutants that must be treated. It's not a direct source of drinking water. On the 81st morning, as time passed, Roland upgraded his gear to combat the extreme cold weather. He dramatically showcased a pair of impressive gloves to the camera. He sported a cozy wolf fur hat and carried a leather shoulder bag. Inside was fishing gear. After displaying it, Roland prepared to tackle ice fishing, a skill he hadn't mastered. Concerned that the ice might not hold his 200-pound weight, Roland opted for a 30-meter pole for ice fishing on the lake. If he happened to break through the ice and fall into the lake, he could use the pole to climb out of the water, avoiding a fatal accident. In the unforgiving Great Slave Lake, the temperature had plummeted to minus 33 degrees Celsius. On the lake's surface, the breeze felt like icy blades cutting the skin. Frost coated his beard and hat brim as he safely arrived at the lake's center by 11 a.m. Roland quickly started chiseling an ice hole, securing the axe with a wet rope to keep it from dropping into the lake. The history of ice fishing dates back over 2,000 years. Native Americans would carve through the ice and spearfish, like sturgeon and pike, to support their livelihood. Soon after, a 40-centimeter square ice hole was ready. To prove himself, Roland opted for premium wild-cut beef as bait, since it was the only meat he had, hoping the fish would go for the quality. But fortune wasn't favoring him today. After waiting for 2.5 hours, the bait remained untouched. As the sky darkened, he decided to head back and eat the plain bison meat. Oh well. Cold nights often spark wandering thoughts. Even someone as strong as Roland couldn't avoid it. The long 18-hour night made him start to miss his family. Time passed. Morning of day 86. Thinking back to the start of the competition, Roland had spent a lot of time to prevent food shortages. He had collected a full 5-level tree trunk of berries. Only now, remembering this treasure trove, he initially planned to feast on these berries, replenishing the hard-to-get sugars. But when he cut open the moss used for preservation, oh dear, what was meant to be a vitamin-rich snack to relieve greasiness had all shrunk and molded. Roland had piled the 5-tier tree trunk up to the food ceiling, along with the indoor bonfire. Burning non-stop, it heated the air inside, speeding up the spoilage of these valuable berries. Now, he had to find another way. With heavy snow falling, there were no berries to collect, so he thought of his treasured ox stomach. Musk oxen are herbivorous mammals, feeding mainly on sandgrass, moss, and broadleaf plants in summer. These plants are full of moisture and nutrients, supporting musk oxen's growth and reproduction during summer. The undigested weeds in the stomach were now seen as treasures by Roland. These are often referred to as ox bile, or 100-herb soup. Seen as a welcoming dish by Kiandongnan ethnic minorities, Roland discovered this through reading. He intentionally kept the whole cow's stomach, anticipating the perfect time. Roland tried the heated stew, and its flavor was beyond words. You'd question if its look was appetizing. Anyway, Roland found it quite tasty. But after this meal, he chose not to repeat the meal, as loneliness and the biting cold wore him down. Roland felt a bit gloomy as the wind and snow howled outside, making breathing hard. He faced the minus 46-degree cold to get water, each step arduous as climbing a snowy mountain. Coldest winter of the Arctic. Region averages 7.5 inches of snowfall per day, and freshly made footprints are quickly covered. As he reached the edge of the ice, his view ahead was engulfed in a terrifying whiteout. Visibility was under 10 meters, with no landmarks on the ice. He could see trees on the shore. Then it was a white blur. During this milky white phenomenon, light scatters intensely, making the horizon invisible. And if one gets nervous, it's easy to lose direction. So at this moment, Roland had to abandon his water-fetching plan. Since the snow hadn't fully concealed his tracks, Roland hurried back to the shelter. After navigating several twists, Roland fortunately made it back to the shore. This heart-pounding experience made him vow never to fetch water during a snowstorm again. On the 89th day, Roland was unaware of Kelly's withdrawal, so he had to maintain his full effort, persisting until the 100th day. To get some collagen, Roland spent a long time deciding among the 4 cow hoofs, eventually choosing the right front hoof, tying it with a wire, and then throwing it into the fire. This rough cooking method could preserve the nutrients the body needed most. Although she still had plenty of food, each item was crucial to the competition's progress, so she had to maximize their use. After 20 minutes of wilderness grilling, the aroma of the roasted hoof wafted over, but the taste was a bit odd. Perhaps not cleaned thoroughly, it had a mix of earthy and hay-like flavors. With the Arctic's 18-hour nights, Roland, always yearning for freedom, grew more irritable in the cramped stone hut, so she kept herself busy with daily tasks, not allowing herself to stop. Otherwise, she'd be consumed by thoughts of her family. Upon entering the competition, Roland was already 48 years old. The once untamable wild horse had learned to consider her family's feelings more. Now, as a late bloomer, she felt she owed her family her mother's deep love she cherished. Joining this challenge, she didn't get to see her mother before she passed, a regret she could never resolve. On Christmas Eve, amidst material abundance and spiritual emptiness, she crafted a snow slope by the door and set a pine tree atop it. For Roland, this was her most meaningful Christmas, the most memorable in her life. When the bell of the 100th day rang, Roland, to mark this historic moment in her life, carved the final mark on the tree trunk, symbolizing her difficult survival for 100 days. Roland realized her solitary wilderness journey was nearing a satisfying conclusion, and she was the ultimate victor. She returned to the stone house. She simply waited in silence for the show crew's long-awaited celebration. This time, the helicopter's arrival wasn't for sending a contestant home as usual, but to welcome the return of the winner. At this moment, Roland finally embraced her moment of glory, a victory without dispute, earned entirely through her resilience and courage, well-deserved. May we all be like Roland, clinging to bravery and determination, trusting we'll grow into our dreams. With this boost, we wrap up the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for your patient viewing, and let's set off again next time. This episode highlights the Season 6 champion of the Wilderness Survival Series, and anyone who's confronted a charging bull can relate to Roland's ordeal. Iconic scene where he faced a 900-pound charging bull with a knife, leaving you in awe. Roland was celebrated as the strongest warrior by all, yet after facing the bull alone, he called out Dan's name.
Just stabbed this musk ox to death.
The deer god from Season 6 of the Survival Series, who successfully shot a 900-pound moose with a single arrow, an act that instantly made Jordan legendary. In addition, he also caught a giant pike worth $500,000. As the first warrior, Jordan needs no words to prove his strength. Next, I will provide a 15,000-word explanation over 40 minutes on how Jordan won the brutal Arctic Survival Challenge.
My name is Jordan.
Jordan first appeared on the 6th day, having already finished his shelter. The initial footage missed showing how the shelter was built. To address the show's visual gaps, let's bring Jordan back to the site. Have Jordan rebuild the champion's cabin for us. He picked this spot because the key reason is the proximity to a water source, vital for daily hydration, making the shelter's location critical. It determines the daily energy expenditure, much like the fixed costs of a monthly mortgage or car loan. Hunting often meant trekking 2 to 3 kilometers, which is why Jordan spent so much time hauling the moose back, just like Roland did with the cow he shot. It was 4 kilometers away from the shelter, twice as far as Jordan's location. By the 6th day, Jordan had already built a permanent shelter. While it wasn't an epic shelter, it was part of Jordan's survival strategy. Early on, shelter needs were minimal, so he simply picked a flat spot, quickly set up a shelter. He wanted to spend more time on hunting. Before the competition, Jordan analyzed other contestants. He realized relying on starvation to burn fat and win was nearly impossible. Therefore, the faster he built a permanent shelter, the more advantageous it was for him.
And this guy here, I'm not gonna win a starving contest.
Roland crafted a wilderness food machine using massive boulders. Jordan preferred to win with intelligence and strategy. Both performed excellently, choosing differently based on their situations. When comparing them, Roland swims, while Jordan strategizes. The scene returns to recreating Jordan's shelter. Jordan dismantled the wood on the ground before departing. The wood pieces are a testament to the champion's legacy, left undisturbed where they originally stood as a former shelter. Clay and moss were used too, though the replica might be more makeshift. Jordan first constructed a dense framework for a shelter on the ground, then stacked it upwards. He used moss to secure the stakes during the process and had to leave space for a fireplace while building the shelter, keeping a rough image of the fireplace in his mind. Simply put, even before starting the shelter, you should have its shape in your head. He dug a pit in the corner of the shelter and used stones to create a spot for the fireplace. He sealed the fireplace with clay to keep flames from slipping through the stone gaps. It reminds me of Amos's shelter mishap, a cautionary tale. The waterproof fabric contestants brought was limited. Jordan used sticks to measure the amount of waterproof fabric needed, cutting off the excess. The cut-off fabric could be used as bags. Jordan used the waterproof fabric to transport clay, placing clay as an adhesive between each stone, which not only sealed to prevent fire escape, reinforced the fireplace. In the Wilderness Survival Challenge, having a fireplace inside the shelter is crucial for warmth during winter. Imagine, in the cold Arctic wilderness, with snow falling outside, shelter feels a spring day, savoring roasted meat and snowy view. What a sight! Jordan tested the smoke ventilation by lighting a fire after constructing the stone fireplace. The tall chimney enhanced the draft, effectively venting smoke from the chimney top. The fire burned more intensely, indicating the fireplace was well constructed, and he could continue constructing the shelter. Jordan's shelter was an A-frame structure made by aligning two sticks and tying them with paracord. The ends of the paracord needed to be burned to prevent fraying and damage. An A-frame shelter requires two frames with a horizontal beam in the middle for support to construct the shelter. A large amount of wood is needed, and Jordan has been cutting down a lot of wood nearby. Every piece of wood must be cut to match the shelter's height. Too short won't hold up, too long will tear the waterproof fabric. Here, I'll explain the real competition environment for building a shelter. Typically, it takes 5 to 6 days, but Jordan returned this time to recreate the championship shelter. To save construction time, staff helped gather materials. Near the Arctic Circle, numerous pine trees are uniformly sized. They're ideal for shelters, and the wood cutting technique is specific, requiring ongoing effort. Cutting wood is tough work, so smart contestants find ways to conserve energy. What if the axe dulls while cutting? Jordan has a multifunctional knife. The mold on the knife sharpens the axe. And out of the 10 items Jordan brought, this multifunctional knife was one I didn't understand until Jordan showed me. Until now, after Jordan demonstrated it to me. After the shelter's frame is built, the excess protruding parts need to be cut off. Once trimmed, the waterproof fabric is laid on top, with the bottom edge weighed down by stones. At the same time, adjust the fireplace chimney and put any extra resin waste outside the shelter. It offers dual protection since the Arctic winter is bitterly cold. Jordan gathered plenty of dry grass to cover the shelter's floor once the basic structure was finished. Jordan checked the fireplace's smoke exhaust again and found no major issues. If the fireplace has smoke leakage, it can be patched with clay. Don't waste the waterproof cloth used for transporting clay. Hang it at the shelter's entrance as a windbreak. In the competition, Jordan used half the cloth at the shelter's entrance and sealed the rest with stacked wood. The reindeer skull was hung up only after a later successful hunt. Here's how Jordan generally went about replicating the championship shelter. How accurate was the replication during the competition? Jordan set out early to arrange hunting traps, placing a 4-stone trap and a snare trap where prey would pass. In the Canadian Arctic, winter averages -26 degrees, with lows reaching -51 degrees. At such frigid temperatures, nearly 90% of animals hibernate. Jordan aims to stockpile as much food as possible before winter to have a chance at winning. He's already feeling anxious about food. Jordan runs a farm, spending most of his time in the forest. He once lived with Siberian reindeer herders for 5 years, gaining deep insights into reindeer habits. During this time, he acquired many snow survival skills. Fishing, trapping, and hunting are basic operations. He learned a lot about reindeer from the herders. Before the competition, Jordan told his wife he hoped to call one successfully a reindeer.
Mating season for moose. Hopefully I can call in a moose.
He lives in a large mansion of thousands of square feet. The $500,000 prize is substantial. That's why Jordan joined the competition. He scouted the hunting grounds on the hilltop, and his shelter is located ahead after he circled a large area. This curved distance is 4 or 5 kilometers, and Jordan felt very angry. Not due to the distance, but because a fire had scorched the area. Forest fires can cause animals to flee, making survival tougher with fewer animals around. All 10 locations offer the essential conditions for survival. Each place has its own advantages and disadvantages. Time quickly moved to the 9th day, during which Jordan set up numerous traps and snares, enjoyed his first catch. Today is a day to celebrate, as Jordan returned to the shelter with a backpack full of items. These 4 rabbits were a boon for Jordan. They marked his first success, giving him hope for continued survival. The 4,000 to 4,800 calories provided by the 4 rabbits can meet Jordan's short-term food needs, but rabbit meat is relatively low in fat. For long-term survival challenges, extra fat sources are essential. Jordan quickly started processing the rabbit meat. When he skinned one of the rabbits, he discovered a lot of white milk flowing from its body. Noticing this, Jordan quickly began licking it, since rabbit milk has fat and vitamins, which help boost immunity and promote bone health. Rabbit meat is filling, and the skins can be turned into warm clothing. Once the rabbit was gutted, just 2 pounds of meat were left. When I thought Jordan might be overwhelmed by the abundance of food, his first dish was merely a pot of soup, crafted from 4 rabbit heads and innards. He's among the rare competitors who fully utilize resources, and just from this, I know Jordan will manage the food aspect very well. Rabbit brains and innards are rich in nutrients, such as vitamin B12, folic acid, protein, and iron help extend survival by maximizing every resource. But Jordan's not the only one feasting on meat. Linton snagged his first big fish on day 6. The fish gave him a mental lift, as food fuels every competitor. As he sliced open the fish and removed the swim bladder, he was struck by a harsh reality. The swim bladder was filled with parasites, which, if ingested, could cause stomach pain, diarrhea, and vomiting. The fish he worked hard to catch was infested with parasites, and as he processed the meat, his appetite vanished. Though his condition had improved, Linton had no intention of throwing away the fish. He decided to cook the fish. If successful, he'd enjoy a hearty meal. If lost, he'd exit the competition. Nathan caught a fish. His gill net caught a lake trout since it's trout migration season. Fish roe has more nutrients than meat, with a mature trout yielding 1,500 to 18,000 grams. Nathan squeezed the fish belly with his hands, massaging to expel the trout's roe. Fish eggs can be eaten raw, but they may carry tapeworms and other parasite larvae. Nathan glanced at the fresh roe in his hand and took a bite without a second thought. The roe is rich in protein and fat. For Nathan, fish eggs are tasty, lively food. Nathan used a knife to clean fish's insides, using fish eggs as bait to catch fish. After returning to the shelter, he soon appeared. He felt unwell and began to vomit. Wilderness hunting often comes with great risks, so please do not attempt it lightly. Time flew by to the 14th night, and Jordan rose early to recall what happened the night before. Noticing some disturbances near the shelter, he went outside to check things out. He discovered a moose near the shelter. However, he didn't react aggressively last night, because this moose, which came to him, might become his prey. On the 15th morning, Jordan aimed to track the moose. Despite having lots of rabbit meat, a rabbit contains only half the fat of a portion of beef. To survive the cold winter, he must consume enough fat to withstand the cold. However, moose have a lot of delicious fat, which is why Jordan wanted to hunt it from the start. Jordan saw many fresh tracks on the ground, likely left by the moose when it came near last night. It's now the moose mating season, also known as the rut. Male moose make calls to attract females, but not all calls are made by male moose. It could also be a male Jordan. Jordan judged the direction the moose left based on the tracks, with the concentrated tracks only 30 meters from the shelter. Jordan saw this as a promising hunting sign and decided to create a warning system. He strung up old cans with rope, so if a moose brushed against it, it would jingle, hoping the sounds wouldn't frighten the moose. The hunting plan. By 3 p.m. on the 16th day, while sipping tea in his shelter, Jordan reached a turning point. He decided to stop waiting for the moose and take action, similar to fishing. He took his hunting bow and a large horn made of bark as his tools. Jordan intended to attract the moose by mimicking its calls, with the short, guttural sounds made by male moose and the long calls made by female moose, allowing him to hunt either gender based on his preference. He simply called out twice and then waited for the moose to appear. At 5 in the afternoon, cawing crows caught Jordan's attention. Crows send out a sentinel to signal other birds of possible threats. Jordan's warning system simultaneously sounded. Jordan grabbed his bow and went out to observe, still wearing his socks and thermal pants. After scanning the surroundings, he noticed a moose by a distant water source, about 50 meters away from him. This might be his only hunting opportunity. Without hesitation, Jordan drew his bow and shot. but perhaps due to the distance, the arrow landed right between the moose's legs. Jordan missed a hunting opportunity. He said he'd definitely succeed if he got another shot.
If I would have had 2 shots, I would have gotten the moose for sure, but
In the following 2 days, Jordan tried fishing, but had no success. Compared to standing foolishly by the shore fishing, Jordan found hunting more interesting. He checked his traps, but the traps were empty. Rabbits were getting scarce, and catching them would be even harder after winter. After facing the triple blow of failing to hunt the moose, unsuccessful fishing, and empty traps, he thought of his father. His father had diabetes, leading to leg amputation and loss of sensation in hands. Yet he consistently kept an uplifting and inspiring outlook. His father's positive outlook influenced him. So now, facing many failures and setbacks, Jordan remained upbeat and hopeful. Not every wilderness survival expert has bagged a moose or bull. Nearly all wilderness champions keep a positive outlook. Jordan thinks back on his initial unsuccessful moose hunt. He chooses to alter his hunting approach, using insights gained from his time with reindeer herders. Jordan plans to build a reindeer enclosure to encourage the moose to stay. I must say, Jordan's idea is truly ingenious. Living nomadically, you'd likely settle down immediately if given a house. Jordan is a strategic participant in wilderness solitude, using tactics like reindeer call mimicry. He attracted a moose, but the hunt failed, as it was too far away. This time, instead of tricking the moose into staying, Jordan had to rely on his skills. Roland uses force for outcomes. Jordan excels. With the reindeer pin ready, Jordan now waits for the moose to take advantage of it. At 8 a.m. on the 20th day, Jordan woke up in his shelter. After rising, he checked the traps outside, finding them empty. However, when he looked up, he spotted a moose ahead. Seeing the moose, Jordan realized the enclosure worked and shot an arrow.
holy cow, I nailed it.
The narration reveals that Jordan successfully hit the moose. I can't believe he hit it so accurately from afar, just like Roland did with the bull. Jordan tracks the moose's path and spots a significant amount of blood on the ground. The bubbly bloodstains suggested the moose's lungs were likely injured. Jordan followed the blood trail to find the moose, but the moose's footprints were faint. Momentarily disoriented, Jordan drew on his hunting expertise to read the grass signs and adjust his path. Fortunately, Jordan spotted the fallen moose not far away. A moose with a lung injury is doomed, and all that's left is to wait for it to die from blood loss. However, this usually takes more than 6 hours for it to die. Jordan considered finishing, but then thought about moose during mating season. He worried that the moose's territorial nature and aggression might make it flee or attack if he got too close. For safety reasons, Jordan could only continue to wait. Similarly, when hunting large prey, Roland confronted a 900-pound muskox with a knife, showcasing exceptional hunting skills. Roland is celebrated as a legend for his bravery, while Jordan takes a more careful route, deciding to wait. Regarding Jordan's title as the Moose God, after waiting 3 hours, the moose stood up, sensing Jordan's presence. The moose's trembling body seemed to make a final attempt to resist, but a sudden thud signaled Jordan's successful hunt. Jordan slowly approached the fallen moose, feeling both tense and amazed at the massive creature before him. After 20 days of relentless struggle, Jordan finally reaped the rewards of his perseverance. I have to say, right now, you're even cooler than those guys watching from the comfort of their homes. Once the thrill faded, the priority was keeping the moose meat from spoiling. Jordan decides to first remove the internal organs, as the bacteria in these organs multiply 3 to 5 times faster than in muscle tissue. This step helps cool down the meat fast, slowing bacterial growth. To buy time for subsequent meat processing and storage, a moose weighs between 850 and 900 pounds, providing a large amount of edible meat. The moose's hide is valuable, similar to how the Siberian Evenki use reindeer hides for warm clothing in the harsh Arctic winters. Faced with this massive creature, even an experienced hunter, using the right tools, it typically takes over 2 hours to process a moose. Jordan first removed one of the moose's large legs. The femoral artery in the thigh delivers oxygen-rich blood to the leg and pelvic area. Cutting the main artery rapidly cools the meat, so the moose's organs need to be removed quickly, which can slow bacterial growth on meat. However, when Jordan cut, he accidentally punctured the moose's stomach, causing blood mixed with stomach fluids to gush out, and puncturing the stomach might release. Intestinal bacteria, which can spoil any meat they touch, hadn't been an issue with this low-grade food before. Jordan might lose a lot of meat, so he needs to process it quickly. He starts by removing the moose's head, a valuable food reserve for winter. Jordan's race against time to process the moose continues into the evening. Despite dangers of dismantling a moose in the dark when animals are more active, he couldn't resist rare protein. He refused to quit, and finally got all the meat moved by 10 p.m. On the 21st day, Jordan hung all the meat up in the trees and built a high platform for food storage with the wooden supports smoothed down to prevent mice from stealing meat. Before hunting the moose, Jordan felt that all animals were cute and delicious, but now he sees them all as thieves. Jordan's double standards are evident. His biggest worry now is a visit from a black bear. Black bears smell meat from 20 miles away. If Jordan built a food shelter like Roland's with the same food and shelter, I think these troubles wouldn't be mine. It's not fully winter yet, and at the current temperature, if preservation isn't done, Jordan's meat may spoil in less than 5 days. So Jordan planned to turn the entire shelter into a smoker. Smoking meat can take up to 24 hours to achieve the best results. After hours of roasting, the venison turns tough under the fireplace. Smoking dehydrates the meat and forms an acidic surface on it, hindering bacterial growth. It's a race against time since the only smoked meat available is what's stored in the shelter. The unprocessed meat requires safeguarding, so Jordan uses pine branches to cover it, mainly to prevent animals from stealing it. Upon returning to the shelter, Jordan immediately starts creating a warning system. To protect this hard-earned venison, Jordan really racks his brains. On the 23rd day, the entire wilderness is covered in a layer of snow overnight. This is a good thing for Jordan, as snow falls outside while he roasts meat skewers inside. This feeling is undoubtedly the best. When a piece of medium-rare venison is sent into his mouth, the long-lost taste of meat. Best feedback for his hard work past days.
Oh man, a nice crispy blackness on the outside.
The aroma of roasted meat fills the shelter. Taking a soft bite, the meat is tender, exuding a roasted aroma and a touch of wild taste. Every chew is a reward for his efforts. Jordan is clearly happy, while Vonia has a different sense of happiness. In his dire situation, hunting finally turns around. Vonia catches his first grouse, obtaining this small grouse. It's not as delicious as Jordan's venison, but for Vonia, the arrival of this grouse is enough to bring him to tears of joy.
So grateful to feel the reward.
Barry catches another large trout in his net. This fish is a hearty dinner for him, 1.25 pounds of lake trout with about 7 grams of fat. This trout can feed Barry for 2 days, and it's the best gift from the first snowfall of winter for Barry. Isn't this a form of joy? Meanwhile, Nikki has gone 8 days without food. On day 23, I was checking the traps and surprisingly caught a rabbit.
Hair means so much to me right now, you know?
The rabbit was undoubtedly a godsend for her, and tears of joy welled up in her eyes. Vonia was just as lucky, with her trap snaring a rabbit too. Her laughter resonating through the wilderness showed her joy. Vonia collected the fur from the rabbits she hunted, planning to make a scarf to keep warm. I bet the rabbits would be terrified if they saw the scarf. But happiness isn't solely about hunting for food, savoring tasty roasted meat, or maybe having your shelter catch fire. Mickey attributes his loss and recovery to the subpar fireplace. When the shelter caught fire, he felt a moment of despair. Luckily, he quickly got the flames under control, feeling just as fortunate then. The fire damage was minor, so a quick fix let him stay in the game. Nixie still has a chance to compete for the $500,000 prize, so he's happy. Time quickly moved to day 36. Jordan held roasted meat, complaining it was difficult to eat, and I felt my brain shrink. Would anyone actually say that? He ate so much meat his teeth ached, so he carved a wooden stick. He used the stick to eat the meat instead of his teeth. The ancient Babylonians used footsticks as a substitute for toothbrushes.
Wow, Mom, this is great.
For a moment, I was speechless with this clown in front of me. Don't be fooled by his happy smile now. When he checks his meat reserves, footprints in the snow make his heart skip a beat. Dense footprints on the ground. They seem to be left by a meat thief, about 20 meters from the shelter. Jordan, judging by the footprints, suspects they were left by a wolverine. Wolverines are ruthless hunters, even lurking 20 feet under the snow waiting for hibernating prey. Jordan immediately considers rigging a noise-making alert to scare off the meat thief so he can quickly chase away the intruder. A silent battle to protect food is about to begin. At night, Jordan decides to stay up to confront the thief, and sure enough, a wolverine shows up. Jordan hears footsteps from inside the shelter and quietly observes at the entrance. Jordan returns to the shelter to recount the recent events. He saw a wolverine preparing to steal food. It ran away when Jordan spotted it. The process was tense and thrilling. The hungry wolverine is a competitive predator, so Jordan only scared it off, without causing it harm. Hopefully, it won't come back to steal again. Jordan checks his meat reserves daily. When he lifts the pine branches to inspect, he finds the kidney fat has been stolen, putting Jordan in a dilemma. He can't consume all the meat immediately, yet he can't stop animals from taking it. These fats were stored on the 22nd day, with about 35,000 calories in a gallon of moose fat. In winter, without sugar and carbohydrates intake, only fat is consumed, not protein. So this gallon of stored fat is extremely important to Jordan.
Kill those wolverines.
He would rather have 10 pounds of venison stolen than lose the family's fat supply. Jordan is really angry now, muttering curses under his breath, essentially wishing the wolverine good health and prosperity. With the meat storage reorganized, Jordan is set to tackle the food thieves. He intends to place snare traps throughout the area and set up an alarm system. Upon hearing the cans rattle, he swiftly grabs his bow and arrow to pursue the intruder. Jordan's generosity cost him a gallon of moose fat. Now, he's determined to catch the thief. The wolverine met its end, and Jordan installed an alarm in the clearing. This was a showdown between Jordan and the wolverine, with time revealing the winner. Tonight, Jordan chooses to stay up again, waiting for the thief from last night to appear. Wolverines are nocturnal hunters, usually active between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. As time crept by, odd sounds echoed outside the shelter again. As expected, the thief was back. Jordan grabbed his bow and arrow, stealthily waiting in the dark for the perfect moment.
Yeah! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! I just killed a wolverine with a hatchet. Yeah. Woo! Oh my God. Yes!
Yes, 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 yes. I must admit, Jordan's hunting prowess is remarkable. His targets never escape. Jordan returned to the shelter with a wolverine, which typically weighs between 20 to 66 pounds. Either way, tonight was a happy one. Jordan eliminated thieves and gained pounds of meat. The wolverine never imagined that the price of a round of fat would be its own life. In its next life, the wolverine should avoid stealing from Jordan. By morning, the wolverine thief was hanging from a tree, its expression eerie, a consequence of crossing Jordan. There are many animals in the jungle, and besides wolverines, there are other thieves. Jordan plans to build a higher food storage platform. He selected 3 straight pine trees here and began constructing a 3-meter-high aerial platform. He used an axe to strip the pine bark, which made it tougher for scavengers to climb the trees. Storing food in midair is actually not uncommon. Other contestants have used this method in past seasons. While elevating the platform deters thieves, it also makes retrieving meat much more difficult. So Jordan built a wooden ladder. Besides this ladder making it easier to transport reserve meat, Jordan placed all the uneaten meat on the 3-meter-high aerial platform, hoping this would keep animals at bay. Suddenly, 45 days have flown by. Today marks the contestant's physical checkup, and the news isn't good. His weight has noticeably decreased, even though Jordan has a substantial stockpile of meat. Moose meat is very low in fat, with less than 1 gram of fat per 100 grams of moose meat. If this continues, Jordan might starve to death eating roast meat every day in the cold winter. If you don't consume sugar and carbohydrates, the consumption will only burn fat and not protein. Jordan eats meat daily, but could starve. To change this situation, Jordan focused on the lake's trout, as their oil is rich in omega-3s. Each tablespoon contains 13.5 grams of fat, which means a trout swimming in the lake is equivalent to a flying fat pig.
Fish have a sustainable amount of fat in them. These lake trout are pretty oily.
Jordan crafted a primitive fishing rod by attaching a fishing reel to a stick using trap wire. Once dismissive of fishing, he now spends time on it out of necessity for fat. His DIY fishing rod worked better than he expected. On the very first cast, a fish took the bait, and he calmly reeled it in. But just then, the trout wriggled free, snatching the bait along with it. The trout snagged the hook Jordan had, leaving him on the shore feeling somewhat defeated. Fishing was off the table now. Life is as unpredictable as a sausage stuffed inside another. That evening, Jordan sat in his shelter, humorously pondering hunting a moose. He was munching on roasted meat, but felt starved. An absurdly real situation. To think it would happen to him, even though Jordan had hundreds of pounds of venison, yet he still felt like he was at a dead end, which admittedly seemed quite amusing. Life's not easy. Rough patches make it worthwhile. Jordan, in his rabbit fur coat, reminded me of Kelly from season 7 of Seeing Jordan, I recalled Kelly, the season 7 runner-up from Alone. He also made a rabbit fur coat for a fashion show. Kelly mentioned. I was honoring Jordan from season 7, the deer god, so we mirrored each other in this scene. During this period, Jordan had been fishing, but always came back empty-handed. He now hopes for winter to arrive soon so he can ice fish on the lake. Before landing any fish, Jordan's sole fat source was the moose head. He used a knife to remove the fat beneath the skin, aiming to collect this subcutaneous fat to render oil. The moose tongue is a highly valued and nutrient-rich part of the moose. It's packed with top-notch protein and beneficial fats, crucial for survival in the Arctic. The moose tongue is especially soft, packed with B vitamins and minerals like iron and zinc. It rapidly boosts energy and supports blood flow, especially in extreme cold. The body consumes heat, and tongue fat has high energy density. The tongue's fat is a great calorie source, so Jordan used a metal pot to extract it. The aroma of this fat was delightful, and using the crispy bits to mix with rice was a true delicacy. Jordan poured the extracted fat into jars for storage. The crispy bits made great snacks, and today's fat would last him through winter. Jordan extracted fat because he couldn't catch fish, but Nathan caught a large fish weighing over 10 pounds with his gill net. He smoked the fish into jerky, providing meals for 2 weeks. Additionally, his gill net caught a pike, the largest pike he had ever caught. Measuring 50 centimeters, it nearly filled the screen. Nathan leads this season in fish catches. Seeing this scene, Jordan would probably be left drooling, and Barry also caught a big one. A big trout, packed with fat, is just the food Jordan craves. Ha ha ha. On the 50th day, even before dawn, Jordan was already awake, clearing his throat. He mentioned that clearing his throat like this uses vibrations to stop the itch. Used to being alone, Jordan discovers ways to amuse himself despite isolation. Jordan checks the meat storage platform daily. Upon scaling the 3-meter platform to check the meat, Jordan found all the fat gone. Jordan noticed many bite marks on the meat and some fur on the tree pole. He looked around and discovered wolverine tracks. Wolverines have long, curved claws that help them climb. Barkless trees can't stop wolverines. They swipe fat from moose meat. Jordan had to start a new battle to protect his fat reserves. A 3-meter platform was already high enough. Since wolverines could climb up the smooth tree trunks, he decided to set snare traps along their path. Jordan placed snare traps on each trunk, increasing the chances of capturing the wolverines as they climbed. There's also an alarm set up between the trunks. If the shelter ropes are jostled, the cans will rattle. This is the most meticulously designed and complex meat storage platform I've ever seen. Suddenly, it was the 51st day, marking his daughter's 3rd birthday. That morning, Jordan sent her birthday wishes from afar.
Anna, happy birthday. Love you a lot. Happy birthday.
Although Jordan misses his children dearly, his emotions are not negative. He prefers not to linger on missing his family. The extended solitude didn't overwhelm him, thanks to his positive outlook on life. Jordan often made little things for fun. He carved some card games out of bark, with the stakes being his $500,000 prize. This could be the ultimate wilderness survival gamble, with Jordan playing both roles, the player and the dealer. The rules are straightforward, and the goal is clear: survival. The game of cards is always unclear. Fate never reveals the hand it's holding. It doesn't rearrange the deck due to your actions. This is why every choice, every move, becomes so important. On the 59th day, with the temperature at -14 degrees, the lake was fully frozen, so Jordan started his ice fishing plan, but had no success until the 63rd day, when he changed his ice fishing strategy to winter fishing, weaving a gill net. Fishing was never part of Jordan's survival plan, but using a gill net was one aspect of it. He was eager to catch a trout for a meal, due to lack of sufficient fat intake, had caused his weight to keep dropping. Humans should consume 44 to 78 grams of fat daily, but Jordan's daily fat intake was below normal value. The gill net took him a day. Standing outside in -14 degrees all day, his feet were already numb from the cold, which is not something most people can endure. With so much meat available, most contestants might choose to lie down, but how many can endure this hardship? It took Jordan 2 days to weave the gill net, and he made a pair of shoes for walking on ice. These wide ice shoes effectively increase the surface area, lowering the risk of ice breaking. Should an ice fishing mishap occur, immersion in cold water quickly lowers body temperature, heightening hypothermia risk. If you go ice fishing in the wild, either carry a long stick like Roland, or make a pair of wide ice shoes like Jordan. The Arctic wind slices the face, while the sky and ground lie frozen in quiet white. The sound of the axe echoes in the silence. True survival is not about fighting nature, but discovering how to embrace life's opportunities when times are tough. Jordan carved 2 ice holes, one for the net to go in and one to come out. He then covered them with snow, which greatly reduced air transmission. This keeps the entrance from freezing, and suddenly, 3 days have flown by. The lake ice thickens, and Jordan's scalp tingles from weeks without washing his hair. Due to food shortages and a monotonous diet, Jordan's prolonged lack of nutrition led to significant hair loss. He gradually became aware that his hair was thinning, What does a bit of hair matter compared to a $500,000 reward? Today, Jordan is checking the gill net, worn out from ongoing malnutrition and concerned about rapid weight loss. Forced to withdraw from the show, he now pins all his hopes on this gill net. He brushed away the snow and tried to lift the gill net from the water. He showed up on camera with a trout that turned into an ice sculpture just a minute after being pulled from the water. The air Jordan exhaled through his nose also froze on his beard. The air is dry here. Moisture is absent. Before the trout froze solid. He quickly gutted the trout, and Jordan promptly took out the fat from its intestines. The trout's fat was smooth like ice cream, offering Jordan 4 days of sustenance. Every part should not be wasted. But not everyone is as lucky as Jordan. Paris also attempted ice fishing, crafting shoes similar to Jordan's using branches, but he didn't have any success.
This is so hard, man. I just want my wife and kids, man. It hurts. I'm starving. Put the fight in me again. Please. Put the fight in me!
If a fish can make Jordan feel like he's found a treasure, then a rabbit can give Wania the same feeling. With just a few days until Halloween, he plans to store food to feast on the holiday. While checking the traps, he was surprised to spot a rabbit foraging nearby. But as he aimed his bow, he missed the rabbit, even from 2 meters away. I realized then that his skills were oceans apart from the champions. Seeing a rabbit was already quite a stroke of luck for him. Little did he know that the rabbit that got away would repay him in another way. A rabbit was successfully caught in Wania's trap. By then, the rabbit's fur was pure white, signaling the full onset of winter. Rabbits change their color according to the environment to...
Oh my God, what a turnaround.
Today, Wania harvested 2 snow rabbits, and he was so overwhelmed with joy that he couldn't imagine it happening on Halloween. Feasting on 2 rabbits in one meal is a delight on the 70th night. Chadan, usually seeing animals fierce and menacing, was particularly amiable tonight. An unexpected visitor, a weasel, suddenly appeared at Chadan's shelter. Relying on its cuteness, it brazenly stole things. A leftover rabbit skin became its target, and Chadan watched as the weasel carried it away. The weasel's antics amused Tatan as the temperature fell to -18 degrees. Colder than Chadan had imagined, the biting wind was felt as soon as he stepped out of the shelter. For Chadan, his 5 years of experience living with reindeer herders in Siberia proved invaluable at this moment. Wanted to get a piece of meat to eat. In the cold, eating just protein can quickly cause poisoning. Protein poisoning is a condition similar to starvation, occurring when the body has enough calories but lacks sufficient nutrients. But when he reached the storage platform, the scene before him made him instantly collapse.
I left the ladder up. Ah!
Last time Jordan grabbed the meat and left, he neglected to reposition the ladder, giving the thief an opportunity. Jordan saw the footprints on the ground. The wolverine must have come back for food, but luckily, it only snatched some fat. The meat was mostly intact, but the trout's oily skin was entirely chewed off. Jordan immediately felt like an idiot, regretting and feeling ashamed of his carelessness. The temperature had plunged to -18 degrees, and Jordan wasn't alone in regretting his carelessness. Nathan felt similarly. As he prepared fish soup in the shelter, the pit fire became overwhelming. The dry conditions inside the winter shelter made the fire spread rapidly. Nathan dismantled the wood and beat out sparks, but the faster the fire spread, nearly igniting him. Soon, the fire became uncontrollable, and Nathan could only watch helplessly as the shelter burned down. He knew the fire not only destroyed the shelter, turned $500,000 prize into ashes. Shelter kept sparking. In the dark Arctic night, resembling a stunning fireworks show.
This really sucks.
Really sucks. It's nighttime and they can't fly the helicopter at night, so I've got at least a 7-hour wait. So I am beginning construction of a shelter. Yeah, this should be good. Super sad.
Lost precious items in that fire, including a sweet future. 72 days, burned in half an hour. Cold.
Nathan's journey was bound to conclude. He contacted the team to exit the competition. Both Vonia's and Nathan's shelters repeatedly warned us about the safety of makeshift shelters. This brings to mind Amos from the 7th season of Alone in the Wilderness. His experience mirrored Nathan's, as both had their shelters catch fire, illuminated the wilderness. Everyone saw their shelter on fire. You must be as shocked as I am. Early that morning, Jordan woke up clamoring for chocolate. He craved bone marrow, noting its frozen texture resembled chocolate. Recently, a wolverine snatched his fish skin, leaving him quite upset. Upon waking, he headed to the lake to inspect the gill net, relying on fish for his fat intake. Today, he planned to ice fish and considered using light to lure the fish. By shining light into the water during fishing, he could lure plankton. He brushed away the snow from the hole and shone his headlamp on the water, aiming to lure fish. He lay on the icy lake, hoping for a big fish to bite, knowing he needed over 45 grams of fat daily to keep his weight steady. After a long wait, Jordan couldn't stand it anymore and returned home. Concerned about his weight, he now hoped the wolverine would return to steal food again. That way, he might be able to hunt a wolverine, and the fat from its body could provide Jordan with some much-needed energy. He realized that catching fish through ice fishing would be tough. Suddenly, anxiety hit him as he worried about his fast-dropping weight. Just then, a helicopter appeared in the sky, and Wania officially withdrew from the competition.
He expressed mixed emotions of joy and sorrow, saying, "My body's done, but I don't really want to leave."
He chose to withdraw because his body could no longer endure. Vonia's rabbit scarf had already proven his skills, and like Kelly, he needed no further words. Vonia survived for 73 days. Vonia's 73-day survival is impressive. With Vonia's exit, Jordan was crowned champion. Suddenly, it was day 77. At dawn, Jordan headed to the lake to inspect his nets and caught a massive 30-pound pike in the gill net. The moment this fish was pulled from the lake, you would never guess. It could be worth $500,000. Because in this brutal Arctic survival challenge, this fish could at least provide Jordan with a full meal. At this point, Jordan was still reveling in the thrill of catching the pike, not yet realizing he had won the Arctic challenge. Back at his shelter, he prepared a large pot of fish soup for lunch, planning to eat well since it was the medical checkup day, and Jordan was anxious about losing weight. Concerned about removal due to weight loss, Jordan ate fish stew as the medical helicopter returned. This time, the helicopter was not there to take a withdrawing contestant home, but to welcome the victor's return.
How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good, like I'm really fit and will stay that way. I can healthily. I feel as good as any day. I feel good.
Jordan was earnestly telling the crew that he was doing well here, constantly emphasizing his efforts to maintain his weight, trying to plead with the crew not to make him leave because of his weight. Unbeknownst to him, his wife was silently coming up behind.
Oh my goodness!
When his wife appeared, Jordan couldn't believe what he was seeing. Only then did he understand he had won the Arctic challenge. He showed his wife his trophies, and they embraced in the shelter, with his wife fully understanding. Her husband's struggles and perseverance in the icy Arctic Circle during these days was not about courage, but willpower. In vast, cold cloud, Jordan wasn't battling nature. He was living in harmony with it. Over the endless days and nights, he learned restraint, patience, and how to replace fear with silence. Jordan proved through his actions that true strength isn't about conquering the wilderness, but finding peace within it. He didn't win by luck, but through calm skills and unyielding will. That concludes the champion episode. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep adding more videos from this series. This episode features the winner of Alone in the Wilderness's 11th season. You may not have heard of the name Tim, but he is certainly the envy of the 12 champions of Alone in the Wilderness.
Beast! La 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 la.
As the contestant who hunted the most food on Alone in the Wilderness, Tim ate meat daily throughout the challenge. He didn't leave because the Arctic winter beat him, but because he found it unremarkable munching on jerky in his impressive shelter. Next, I'll give a detailed account in 20,000 words in 50 minutes about how Tim savored meat daily in the Arctic wilderness. Please pay close attention and remember to like and subscribe to support my channel. To support me. When Tim first exited the helicopter at the start of the competition, he formed a silent pact with the wilderness. With no way out, only a game with nature. Every step he took here was a test of his survival instincts. Before heading out to explore the area, Tim gathered his safety gear. Air horn, bear spray, deterrence, safety over championship. He hoped to return safely to his wife, considering that wild animals are sensitive to sound. Tim specifically chose arrows with dense fletching to reduce noise during flight while hunting. Moose can hear from over 2 miles away, so having the right tools is crucial for hunting, which is evident from this fact alone. Tim's expertise in hunting is very high, thanks to his lifelong habits. As an excellent lumberjack, Tim has lived in the wild since childhood. Tim has honed his hunting skills and mastered building shelters and surviving in the wild. Living in the suburbs with his family is affordable, but financial strain has been growing. Participating in this wilderness survival challenge aims to win prize money to improve their lives. Tim traversed the bushes to reach the riverbank.
I see most tracks right off the bat in grizzly bear tracks.
The riverbank tracks grabbed his attention, especially the black bear ones. He was more surprised by the unexpected number of moose tracks. Based on the river tracks, moose are likely to show up nearby. Grizzly bears tend to walk on flat banks, prompting Tim to head into the forest to search for moose. A crisp sound of pine trees reached his ears, and Tim immediately raised his bow and arrow to hunt. With just one arrow, he managed to hunt a squirrel in the bushes. His hunting skills have been preliminarily verified.
This is excellent. Excellent.
Catching this squirrel ensures he won't be hungry tonight, and he intends to use its innards for fishing in Mackenzie and Delta, where pike and trout reside. Trout, pike, and whitefish are omnivorous species. Using squirrel guts as bait works perfectly. As Tim smeared squirrel blood on his shoulder, the $1 million survival challenge quietly began. In the following time, Tim hunted a second squirrel, and after processing the squirrel, he used the innards as bait for his fishing hook. Only when I ensure a sufficient food supply will building a shelter feel reassuring. Tim intends to build a temporary shelter using his wilderness expertise. His expertise makes constructing the shelter a breeze, and in no time, Tim has built a sloped shelter. This shelter fully meets his living requirements for the first week. Next, he just needs to build a permanent shelter based on his food supply. This survival strategy is simple and dependable. As Tim neared the shore to inspect the fishing hook, he was certain a fish was caught even from a distance. The tight line confirmed it. When Tim reeled in the line, sure enough, there was a pike hanging from it. Tim's luck was truly remarkable. Yes, this 25-inch pike can provide Tim with 1,750 calories and 370 grams of protein, finally replenishing the energy spent on building the shelter. Tim quickly lights a fire to cook, aware it's autumn in the Arctic Circle. At this stage, sunset is at 10:15 p.m., so Tim doesn't have time to preserve the fish. All he can do is cook everything and have a hearty feast. Tim cut up the pike meat and made a big pot of fish stew, making good use of the waiting time. 2 squirrels served as an appetizer, providing him with about 600 calories. Though he's not entirely full, he needn't worry. The hearty fish pot will satisfy him. Tim's first day is going exceptionally well. This promising start boosts his confidence for the $1 million prize ahead. It's already the 5th day, and Tim is struggling with the drinking water problem. Whenever he boils water in the iron pot, he has to wait ages to drink it, and leftover water awkwardly remains in the pot. Tim repurposes an arrow tube for storing water, melts beeswax, and fills the tube, letting it seep into the fibers to create a waterproof seal. Tim stores the boiled and cooled water in the arrow tube, freeing up the iron pot for boiling or cooking. The arrow tube holds 4 liters, enough for Tim's daily water needs, but he still needs to organize the scattered arrows.
Every time I carry these arrows around with my bow without them being secured, I run the risk of...
Yes, Tim is right. Carrying arrows without securing them poses a risk of cuts. It's worth mentioning that this season's contestant, Kirby, was injured when his bow and arrows fell during hunting. The arrow pierced the inner thigh, which has a femoral artery. And if the femoral artery is severed, Kirby could face life-threatening blood loss within about 5 minutes. On day 1, Kirby had to leave due to injury, but for a pro like Tim, that's not an option. He grabs some shoulder leather. He trims 2 small sections, folds the leather, and makes holes in the center. These holes hold arrow shafts. Tim stitches leather using military-grade thread, creating a holder fixed to the bow. He attaches the holder to the bow. It holds 4 arrows at once, and in the wild, you typically get just 1 shot to hunt. 4 arrows should be enough, and this holder secures them while removing the need for a quiver.
I think that'll shoot just fine.
Tim reached the shore with his bow and arrows, noticing numerous bear tracks. He hasn't seen a bear in his 5 days here, but suddenly spots fresh moose tracks. This is a good sign. Tim follows the direction of the moose tracks. From the first day, Tim set a goal to hunt large game. Food is the core of this challenge. If I could hunt a musk ox like Roland did, hunting a moose like Jordan would make winning the championship just a matter of time. After passing through the bushes, Tim spotted a swamp where a male moose was lying. Tim, I quickly realized I was upwind and knew I had to move. The wind would carry my scent to the animals, making them more alert. So I chose to circle the meadow to get closer to the moose.
I think I'm gonna try calling to it from right here.
Tim's imitation call indeed caught the moose's attention. As the moose stood up and was about to leave, Tim was determined to get that meat. Tim continued to mimic the moose's call, 3 times. and his heart was almost in his throat. He had never tried hunting using a decoy method before. Eventually, the moose began heading towards the calls, closing the gap to 150 meters, still a long shot for hunting. Tim cautiously advanced with bow and arrow. At this moment, the moose looks in his direction and slowly moves away. This might be Tim's best hunting opportunity.
Okay, I got another chance.
The first try missed, with the arrow landing just under the moose. Luckily, the moose stayed calm and didn't flee, allowing Tim another shot at hunting. Sadly, the second attempt failed too. He missed the branches ahead, which blocked Tim's arrow just 10 feet in front of the moose. Tim's heart went from burning hot to ice cold in the time it took to shoot 2 arrows. The branches not only stopped Tim's arrow, but also tugged at his heartstrings. Back at camp, Tim felt like he had lost his soul, worse than a heartbreak. Nearly in tears, he felt unmotivated. High hopes often lead to deep disappointment. 7 days flew by. Can you guess how Tim spent them? Every day, he would come here to look around for the moose, hoping it would appear before him again.
The feeling of defeat that settled in was beyond my life as much as I wanted that bull moose.
This was the only place he had seen the moose appear. Moose are large animals with a high demand for water. This location perfectly meets their survival needs. Tim still has a chance to encounter the moose again, but until he gets red meat, his main source of food remains fish. He plans to weave a net to catch fish. Today happens to be his eldest son's 9th birthday, and he wants to use this net as a birthday gift for his son, making it part of this adventure journey. Tim believes this net will bring him good luck. He worked on weaving the net until past 7 in the evening. It wasn't finished yet, so he planned to check the fishing lines by the river. During this time, his energy was entirely focused on the moose. The scene shifts, and Tim appears holding a 34-inch pike. He forgot the sadness of failing to hunt the moose, immersed in the joy of catching the pike. When he checked the second fishing line, unexpectedly, he caught another pike.
Tonight we feast. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful fish.
Tim's son's birthday has quietly become his lucky day. By day 13's morning, prolonged malnutrition left him unable to clot properly. Tim suddenly had a nosebleed, and he was most concerned that the blood scent might lure black bears. Bears smell 2,100 times better than humans, detecting food miles away. Tim decided to toss the blood-stained leaves into the fire, which was a good way to handle the situation. Once the nosebleed stopped, Tim immediately began working on building a permanent shelter. The fish Tim caught yesterday would last him 2 days, and the chilly night signaled that winter was near, making a sturdy shelter essential. Warm shelter was important. Tim considered plans for constructing the shelter, using nearby resources, each hefty log weighing hundreds of pounds, which would be daunting for someone with a bad back. For lumberjack Tim, these massive logs were nothing new, and he decided to build a lean to shelter on site, saving time on moving the logs and avoiding excessive physical exertion. The last he saw someone use 100-kilo logs for a shelter was in the mid-season of the 7th season with Machine Roland, Tim's shelter this time, aiming for the $1 million prize. Tim used moss to fill the gaps between the logs and used stones to chisel them. Wood has a certain natural insulation. When winter temperatures plummet, the log walls do a great job of keeping the cold air out, reducing heat loss. Moss, as a natural wind barrier, it effectively blocks the cold air from invading. Tim completed the construction of the log cabin shelter in just 1 day, thanks to his extensive experience and strong physical strength as a lumberjack. Tim's physical ability and skills let him thrive in this extreme environment. He managed to swiftly complete this significant survival task. While busy constructing the shelter, Tim notices how smoothly things are progressing. As the shelter comes together, he enjoys tasty fish to boost his energy when he's hungry. Everything seemed calm and harmonious. But just as I thought Tim had forgotten his ambitious goal of hunting a moose, a noise from behind brought him back to reality.
Indeed, it sounded like the call of a moose.
Tim quickly rose to check it out. The moose he'd been eagerly waiting for had reappeared. A grouse suddenly startled Tim, and in frustration, he hurled a stick at it. Setting aside his grudge against the grouse, a more urgent task awaited him, one as valuable as $1 million prize. He has to handle the moose quite a distance away. Reflecting on last failed attempt, he decided to loop around via the river to sneak up on the moose from behind. Let's pause to examine Tim's surroundings. He's established his base here. Hearing the moose, he moved through the forest to a meadow, spotted it, and sneaked up from behind. He made his way behind the moose from the riverbank, and that's where he is now. Here's a little spoiler for everyone. After Tim spots the moose is spooked and settles in the nearby forest. With that scene set, let's go back to the footage. It's autumn now in the Arctic Circle, which is the breeding season for moose, making the males more active. Tim positioned himself upwind of the moose and lured it in by imitating a female moose's call. The moose was not only drawn in, but also stopped 50 meters ahead of Tim to graze. This gave Tim a perfect chance to hunt, and his face showed pure excitement and thrill. This moment truly reflects how happy he is right now. Without exaggeration, it's 2,100 times more than humans. Tim lights a fire, attracting many wild animals. Tim first disassembled the moose's limbs, then proceeded to handle the other parts of the moose's body. By around 7 p.m., only half of the moose had been processed. The rest of the meat would have to wait until tomorrow. Tim had to get all the processed meat back to camp before nightfall. The camp is 1.6 kilometers away. Tim makes 5 trips to transport 500 pounds of meat. By the fire at night, Tim frets over the safety of the leftover moose meat rather than savoring the tasty roast. Considering the area's dangers, he opted not to move the deer meat at night. This area hosts over 5,000 grizzly bears and is often prowled by night predators like wolverines. These nocturnal predators are deadly hunters after dark. Tim isn't willing to risk his life just to save more food. Hopefully, the predators won't eat the entire moose tonight. Finding just a moose skeleton tomorrow could make a good soup. Preserving the moose meat is crucial. With autumn temperatures in the Arctic Circle hitting 14 degrees, it's too warm for preservation since anything above 4 degrees risks spoilage. To prevent spoilage, Tim decides to construct a meat storage box by the river. The river can facilitate convection. Since hot air tends to rise, cold air descends, creating a cooling effect and chilling the surrounding ground. Storing meat in the wild is trickier than it seems. Besides ensuring the venison stays cool, Tim must also keep it dry. A damp setting can be perfect for bacteria to thrive. Tim chopped down a lot of wood and arranged it by the river to form a wall. He wants to keep the storage box as dry as possible while moving the wood. He hopes winter comes soon, as an early arrival would benefit him greatly. The timing for moose hunting was off, and perhaps this challenge might be in vain. When Roland hunted and shot a bull, it snowed heavily the next day. That winter was absolutely perfect timing for him. Tim used pine branches at the bottom to allow air circulation inside the meat box. He stored some of the meat inside, secured with hundreds of kilograms of logs for safety. Even if a grizzly bear stomped on it, it wouldn't budge. Tim thought the meat box was foolproof, but the next day, he was proven wrong. A little mink slapped him in the face by stealing meat right in front of him, but Tim was powerless to stop it. While constructing the meat storage box, Tim ensured air circulation and didn't make the box airtight, which allowed the mink to exploit its small size advantage. The moose's heart and fat were taken, and if you saw Jordan's Champion episode, you know fat is crucial in winter. Jordan almost starved despite eating roasted meat every day because a wolverine stole his fat. In the cold winter, the body needs to consume sugars and carbohydrates. Fat is crucial for converting sugars and carbs, so losing the moose fat to the mink was a big setback for Tim. Moose meat is high-protein, low-calorie food. For breakfast, Tim combined moose meat and fat in an iron pot. The deer meat soaked up all the fat's oil, making breakfast more energy-rich. This boosts Tim's health in the wild, and to avoid wasting the leftover oil from frying the deer meat, he poured it into a container. A single breakfast can store several hundred grams of deer fat, which will surely provide Tim with significant energy during the winter. Tim intends to turn his new log cabin into a smokehouse for the leftover fresh deer meat. Recently, Jordan used this method in past seasons, hanging deer meat in the shelter to smoke it. In the 7th season, Roland also used the same method after hunting a musk ox. Smoking the musk ox meat in the shelter avoids the hassle of constructing another oven, but also enables fast and effective meat preservation. Tim retrieved a big chunk of deer meat from the box. He intends to slice the meat into strips and hang them in the shelter for smoking, effectively drying it out. When fast preservation is necessary, this method is ideal. He found large bear footprints on the shore 3 times, showing that no shelter can resist a grizzly bear. The priority now is to swiftly cut the rest of the deer meat, then place it inside for smoking, as each extra day poses more danger. Tim draped the deer meat across the shelter's roof, filling the space with its aroma. Tim lit a fire inside the shelter, as temperature control is crucial for making smoked meat. High temperatures may dry meat too much, while low temperatures won't kill bacteria. Smoking several hundred pounds of deer meat could take a few days, during which Tim can only continue to sleep in the tent overnight. After a battle against time, Tim unwound and savored deer meat, a reward for his efforts. Tim is now more hopeful about the upcoming days of survival in the wilderness. After 3 days, the venison is smoked and ready. Tim stores the jerky in the box by the river. He likely has plenty of venison stored, so he doesn't even care to lick the yogurt lid now. The grouse flying around behind him doesn't catch his attention at all. With life improving, personal image needs to keep up. Tim uses an arrowhead to shave. However, he used this arrow to hunt the moose, so shaving with a blood-stained arrowhead is quite an unknown experience. Tim's almost finished his tasks, and handling the moose meat has burned over 10,000 calories of his energy, prompting him to crave a cozy bed to rest in before settling into his new home. Tim aims to create a cozy bed, eat and sleep well daily. Confident winning the competition is inevitable. Ground's heat conductivity is 3 times that of air in winter, so a bed off the ground is crucial for warmth. Tim also laid a layer of spruce branches under the bed, which effectively insulates temperature. It's like adding a down jacket to the bed. Once the frame was ready, he used spruce branches for the mattress. After eating and drinking, lying on the bed, nothing in the world feels more pleasant than this. Building a wooden bed consumes more energy than he imagined. Tim realizes he's not as strong as he was at the start. Simple tasks now exhaust him, likely because he caught a cold from not staying warm during recent heavy labor. The changing temperatures sap his energy, and he hopes to push through. On the 21st day, the show sends contestants health check information. Every contestant fears being pulled from the competition for health reasons. Aside from normal weight loss, most contestants have no issues.
Extract you for medical reasons.
It's quite serious. It's not safe to continue.
My brother had an obstruction and had about 7 feet of his intestine removed.
Jack experienced stomach pain alone. He was diagnosed with intestinal obstruction, and producers withdrew him. Jack had to leave for hospital tests due to an intestinal obstruction. While some contestants exited early for health reasons, but the survival challenge doesn't stop. As time goes by day, Tim sees moose appear again near his shelter. A cow moose with 2 calves strolling on the meadow ahead, and he stands there, watching the mother and calves pass by. He feels a sense of peace within. Seeing the moose seemed like a reward for his unwavering spirit. Winning this extreme cold survival challenge is no easy feat. Although Tim has a good stock of moose meat, he can't afford to take it easy now. Winter is still a little way off, so Tim needs to prepare thoroughly for it. Due to daily strenuous labor, Tim experiences brain fog and mental fatigue from prolonged malnutrition. His lack of focus leads to a saw cutting his thumb, a serious concern in the wild. Improper wound care can lead to infection and sepsis. This can lead to tissue damage, organ failure, and death. Any mishap could result in a contestant's immediate withdrawal. Tim plans to apply spruce branches to his finger wound. Spruce branches naturally fight bacteria and microorganisms, effectively preventing their growth. Help reduce the risk of wound infection, especially in harsh survival environments. Keeping the wound clean is crucial. After treating the wound, Tim assessed his situation, pondering finishing certain tasks. In reality, there's no need to finish anything right now. It might be a brain fog caused by stress, lack of sleep, or overwork. Adequate food is fundamental for long-term survival, but a positive mindset is key to winning. Hopefully, Tim can stabilize his mindset, face the upcoming extreme cold challenges as the days go by. Tim hears wolf howls more frequently in the shelter, keeping him awake almost all night. In autumn and winter, as winter draws near, wolf howls become more common. As winter nears, food becomes scarcer, and wolf packs howl more to warn other groups. Search for prey or establish sound markers. After dawn, Tim indeed found wolf footprints in the nearby grass. Wolves usually move in packs. If the wolf pack considers this their territory, then Tim's environment becomes more dangerous. Compared to his personal safety, Tim worries about food being taken over safety. Armed with a bow and arrow, he returns to the moose hunting spot. He spots fresh bear tracks. Based on their depth, this bear is 500 pounds. Tim ate moose meat for over 10 days. It's not a bad thing. Tim's craving a new flavor. Tim is fine with smoking a lot of meat again. When he gets to the old moose disassembly site, the moose carcass has disappeared, leaving only 3 deer legs on the ground. Tim thinks the moose carcass might have been pulled into the willow bushes. If a grizzly bear is indeed nearby, then Tim's situation becomes more dangerous. Since both the wolf pack and grizzly bear want a share of this spot, Tim, recognized for his wilderness smarts, stands his ground. He found a pile of dry branches and decided to make his own mark here. This clever tactic involves Tim using his skill to urinate at a height. Mark the branches, making the bears think the creature marking territory is huge, creating a deterrent effect. Small in stature, big spirit, urinating higher. On the morning of the 29th day, a flock of geese flew across the sky. The geese flying south signals the coming winter. and frost now covers the grass.
This is what I dreamed about. This is awesome.
Winter arrives, and with stored meat, Tim is prepared. This winter works in Tim's favor. The Arctic's atmospheric shifts can swiftly change autumn's mildness to winter's chill, leaving contestants with little time to perfect their shelters. Tim collects hay to spread on the roof, a technique that boosts the shelter's insulation effectively, isolates cold air, and reduces heat loss. It's a natural, simple, and efficient survival technique, essential for handling the harsh cold of the approaching winter. Tim's shelter indeed looks impressive. It's clear he's aiming for the $1 million prize, having a warm shelter. Can significantly lessen fatigue and health problems from the cold. It not only provides physical warmth, but also offers Tim psychological security and resilience, which is why he calls the shelter a home.
But you've never seen a bushcraft shelter like that. Not a shelter home.
However, in the 7th season of Alone, the ultimate wilderness machine Roland built an epic food shelter. He also treated the shelter as a home. Tim named this shelter Moosehead Fort and held a torch while conducting some sort of commemorative ceremony. This self-talk might seem a bit eccentric, but contestants have often entertained themselves in past seasons. They engage in role-playing or converse with imaginary friends they've invented. This activity goes beyond mere entertainment. It greatly benefits the survivor's mental and emotional health, especially when facing prolonged solitude and immense pressure in extreme environments. This behavior not only alleviates negative emotions, but also entertains the audience. It's beneficial emotionally and logically with the increasing day-night temperature gap. Frost has started to appear in the mornings. Each night is colder than the last. Time is running out for Tim to gather winter food, so he goes to the shore to check the fishing line, aiming to gather fish for winter reserves, as it's fatty and ideal for cold months. When Tim retrieves the line, a 28-inch pike is caught. So far, Tim's already landed 4 hefty pikes, each over 10 pounds, but he's not lacking food at the moment. He intends to secure the fish in the river by threading wire through their lower jaw with a sturdy line, creating a closed loop, then putting the pike back into the river. This approach is a clever and practical survival strategy. Extend food supply, minimize waste, adapt to environmental changes. Making adjustments is essential to ensure a sustainable food source remains available when the cold season arrives. In Alone in the Wilderness, Tim uniquely cultivates fish in the river. Tim is likely the sole contestant. To date, Tim has set a record in wilderness solitude by amassing the most food. His food supply exceeded 1,130 pounds. He was cooking breakfast. He heard a noise by the riverbank, but left his camera behind. He returned to the camp to get his camera and found another fish on his line. This time, it was over a meter long, a massive barracuda, nearly too heavy for one hand.
Look at this!
Tim also released this fish back into the river to keep it there, as turning these fish into jerky would attract small animals like mice, weasels, and wolverines, causing more trouble for Tim. Far more than larger predators. As soon as Tim returned to camp, a crow spoiled his fresh breakfast fish. Tim shouted at the crow in the tree, and as soon as he got up, the crow came down again. It's really a headache. Too much food is a hassle. Tim was furious in the morning. Half of the fish in the storage box was chewed up, and the rest seemed tainted. Tim thinks mice are responsible. You must stay vigilant at all times. If this keeps up, the stored meat will surely be devoured. To stop the theft, Tim plans to construct another food storage room.
Tim has decided to build a rolling-style food cache on the ground.
Tim chopped down a lot of wood and selected a clearing near the camp. He plans to rebuild a meat storage box here, placing a net at the bottom as padding. However, the net is ineffective against mice, so he uses moose hide to create a completely sealed meat bag. The moose hide, up to a 1/4 inch thick, is tough for small animals to gnaw through. Tim intends to stitch the puncture holes in the hide using wire. His multi-tool includes a chisel, which can be used for marking surfaces or drilling small holes in leather or wood, showcasing the skills of a capable wilderness survivalist. He has a range of life skills, with hunting and wood chopping as fundamental tasks. However, his sewing skills are exceptional, comparable to those of a surgeon. Next, he simply needs to fit the hefty moose hide into the box. It's easy to picture how cozy sleeping on this moose hide would be. The moose hide absorbs moisture, keeping food dry when stored inside. The moose hide's thorough protection makes the stored meat much safer. Tim chopped more wood, placing it on top of the meat storage box as a cover, completing a perfect meat box. Even if the meat runs out, the moose hide alone could sustain Tim for another 10 days in winter. Overnight, the Mackenzie River's Arctic winter was blanketed with snow. Snowfall marks winter's start in the Arctic, prompting a moose family to venture out with their young for the season's first snow. Such a warm scene reminded Tim of his own family. The real test of enduring cold alone in the wild was starting. At dawn, Tim went hunting with bow and arrow and spotted an eagle near the meat box. Tim was relieved it didn't succeed, as the meat box clearly provided significant protection. But the wood on top of the meat storage box isn't fixed, so it wouldn't protect against black bears and wolverines. Wolverines are cunning hunters, and the deer god Jordan once dueled with one, calling himself an idiot. If Tim's meat box didn't have a fixed cover, he would likely face the same outcome as Jordan. Tim plans to install a log beam on top of the meat box for stability. He found a log and carved grooves between two trees, wedging the wood between the trees to secure it.
Full cash. Done. Hold's unmovable. Steadfast.
With the wooden box safeguarding the meat, Tim can rest easier at night. With the meat storage box secured, Tim can now focus on handling the barracudas in the river. If the river surface freezes, it could potentially cut the rope. When Tim checked the fishing line at the river, the barracuda he had roped was missing. The biggest barracuda disappeared, and it could have given Tim at least 7 meals. A 40-inch barracuda contains over 16,000 calories. This loss is significant to Tim, tethered with an umbrella. In theory, it shouldn't have escaped. Yet Tim thinks an otter snatched it. Yet, the bad luck continued. Tim lost his second fish too. Losing 2 large fish cost Tim over 10 days worth of stored meat. He now regrets his earlier decision, wishing he had smoked the fish instead. He processed the remaining fish and stored it in the newly made meat box. Even with plenty of stored meat, losing those 2 big fish is still a shame. Tim checks the stored meat daily. The pine marten returned to swipe food again. It's a cute little creature, but it's quite bold. Not only unafraid of Tim, but even running towards the meat box right in front of him. Is blatant behavior really okay? The pine marten is a protected animal, so Tim can't hunt it. He had no choice but to use a bear repellent to drive it away. Does he know he's a protected species? How can he be so fearless? In -3-degree weather, Tim goes to the shore to check the fishing line. Unexpectedly, he finds the fishing line he lost the day before. Using a stick, he retrieves it, and to his surprise, the line still has the barracuda he had tied with wire.
He got the fish that got away on the stringer. He cannot believe that.
Tim can hardly believe it. The fish he lost has reappeared. The big fish he recovered not only renews his hope, but also bolsters his confidence for future challenges, adding over 10 pounds to his meat reserves. As long as Tim doesn't break down from missing his family, winning the championship is just a matter of time. Tim stores the processed fish in the wooden box. Back at camp, he opts to light a fire in the shelter for warmth. When building the shelter, he didn't construct a fireplace inside. When he starts a fire in the shelter, the chimney fails to draw out the smoke effectively, causing the smoke concentration inside to soar. He tries sitting inside for a while, but eventually has to leave, as too much smoke can inflame his lungs and cause swelling, leading to oxygen deprivation. If he lights a fire at night, he might suffocate in his sleep from the smoke. The shelter won't provide warmth, particularly once winter arrives. This will make the survival conditions tougher, as keeping the shelter warm is crucial for his nighttime rest, and eating more meat won't make up for poor rest. So, Tim creates a smoke-blocking board like a range hood. He cuts a piece of tough moose hide and hangs it above the fire, blocking the rising smoke and directing it out through the chimney. This small modification completely fixed the smoke ventilation issue in the shelter, avoiding the need to build a fireplace, but also effectively warming the shelter. As he tended the fire, Tim began talking to himself unexpectedly, perhaps due to the prolonged sense of loneliness and isolation. This self-entertainment and role-playing behavior is not merely for fun, but a mental adjustment tool to handle loneliness, stress, and survival challenges, likely sparked by the stress of prolonged isolation. While this mechanism regulates itself, the repeated behavior suggests Tim's loneliness is growing stronger. When Tim went out to check the traps, he found a thick layer of snow had fallen outside. The snow made the area resemble the Arctic. Tim pulled out his jerky. The smoked deer meat had toughened from dehydration. Alongside malnutrition from Tim's unbalanced diet, eating the jerky caused severe toothache, a problem also seen in the 6th episode of Wilderness Solitude, when Jordan ate deer meat. To survive here long-term, Tim must continue to seek fresh meat. Today's traps yielded nothing, and he unexpectedly arrived at the previous moose hunting spot. He spotted some moose bones, but wasn't certain if they were from the moose he had previously hunted. He collected the moose carcass. The meat on the ribs had been gnawed clean by predators. Tim chopped some bones with an axe, but these bones were not for making soup or eating. They were for crafting various survival tools. which would aid Tim in hunting for fresh meat. Currently, fishing is the simplest way for Tim to obtain fresh meat, but he only has 4 fish hooks left, so Tim plans to use these moose bones to make some gorge hooks. Unlike fish hooks, gorge hooks have spikes on both ends. If these hooks prove effective, Tim can set up numerous fishing hooks, boost chances of success. Along with fishing, Tim set up 5 snare traps in the jungle, adhering to wilderness solitude rules. To win, Tim must outlast the others, so he's focused on storing plenty of food. For the 7th season, the rules are unique. Contestants just need to last 100 days to split the prize. Knowing when it ends eases the mental pressure on contestants. Tim plans to survive beyond 70 days, knowing that strong competitors like Jack and William are in the mix. So he's focused on gathering more meat. To survive, he sets traps, but the first 3 are empty. However, when he checked the last one, he was lucky enough to catch a rabbit. Tim decisively broke the rabbit's neck. Sensitive viewers might want to skip this part. While a rabbit offers a decent amount of meat, it lacks much fat. Tim can only manage about 2,000 calories. In the cold winter, most needed is fat, not protein. If you only eat rabbit meat, he might starve. Tim plans to cook moose and rabbit meat, which would be a great balance. Not only providing more calories and nutrition for survival, it can enhance food flavor and preservation by wisely pairing with high-fat foods. Able to safeguard Tim's health under harsh conditions, he returned to the shelter and savored rabbit stew. He felt more comfortable as daily survival in the freezing wilderness. Survival is filled with challenges. This rabbit, it wasn't just a successful hunt, it marked a major survival breakthrough. Rabbit meat offered a refreshing break from his usual monotonous diet of smoked venison. Adding rabbit meat diversifies his diet, offering freshness and a satisfying taste. Tim enhances rabbit meat with moose fat, increasing energy and improving winter survival chances. Tim checks the fishing line at the shore every day. Fishing is getting tougher as the temperature drops to -4 degrees. Outside, heavy snow and biting wind prevail. Inside, feels like spring. This shows how well insulated Tim's shelter is. He carved a little fox out of wood. He carved a toy for his son. He has 2, so he needs to carve 2. The tails of these 2 squirrels were from Tim's first day of hunting. Although these toys look quite ordinary to Tim, it's his little pastime in the Arctic wilderness. Since the beginning, Tim has already lost 30 pounds. Despite eating meat every day, the energy expenditure has completely surprised him. Chopping wood and checking the fishing line became his daily tasks. Mink tracks show up on the shore, hinting it's back to swipe fish by the rod. The line's bouncing. Looks like it snagged something.
Got a fish on the gorge hook. Yeah, guys. I got a fish on a piece of bone.
Tim's gorge hook made from moose bone worked, successfully catching a barracuda for him. The bone wedged sideways in the fish's throat, and the barracuda never expected to be snagged by such a trap.
I just caught this fish with a piece of moose bone. That's the coolest thing ever.
Tim's food supply has increased once again, and with ample provisions, he doesn't feel the slightest chill in this cold winter, his face beaming with a confident smile. This shows his confidence. He might not see a reason to fail in this cold challenge. It seems that Tim is unlikely to find a reason to lose this extreme cold challenge at the moment. It's now day 55, and the Arctic wilderness is getting colder by the day. Tim began in the shelter, chewing dried meat after fasting yesterday. Surprisingly, Tim enjoyed a solid night's sleep, estimating he got around 8 hours, and a good night's sleep makes him feel more energized. Tim went out to check the traps, hoping to catch a rabbit every day. With moose fat, cooking becomes really similar. Besides setting traps, once the river freezes, he can also try ice fishing. However, when Tim checked the traps, he found the line had been snapped.
The wire right there. Busted snare means an animal got away.
Based on the ground marks, the prey likely struggled fiercely to get away. Tim looked around the area. He found no new footprints, but Tim's dried meat supply could sustain him for 100 days. The lack of fresh protein in recent days has made him a bit anxious. A skilled contestant knows to store meat because it offers essential security. In the evening, Tim was stewing meat in the shelter when he heard noises outside. A wolverine had come near the camp, seemingly to steal some meat.
Weird noise from my food cache. I'm gonna go look.
Tim went out with his headlamp to check, but found nothing. At dawn, Tim went to check the meat storage box again and found many wolverine footprints in the snow, and a piece of wood lay on the ground. Tim used it to store barracuda guts. All the fishing bait had been taken and eaten. Tim tracked the footprints to the riverbank, expecting the wolverine to come back.
I think he'll be back for sure. I want to keep an eye out to kill that baby. I want to eat that thing.
If Tim can catch this wolverine, winning the $1 million prize is just a matter of time. He returned to the shelter, grabbed a bow and arrow, and set off to the meadow. where wolverine footprints appeared. Wolverines walk 24 kilometers a day, which amazes Tim. How sensitive are these guys' noses? Even from afar, it sniffed out his meat stash, regardless of its sharp sense of smell. Ever since it stole the bait, Tim was determined to make the wolverine pay dearly. He dismantled all the traps to use them. He intended to use the lines to set up an alarm system to catch the wolverine, quietly starting a man versus wolverine battle. On the 58th day, while exploring outside, Tim found a moose antler. He chose to transform the moose antler into a musical instrument by adding driftwood. Isolation in the wilderness began affecting his mind, so he engaged in different activities to alleviate stress, like crafting a moose antler base to pass time and keep entertained. The later stages of living alone in the wilderness are a psychological battle. Those who endure become champions. Contestants can complete a survival task each day. To boost their survival confidence and avoid excessive longing for family, they can set small goals like Tim, such as hosting a concert in the Arctic wilderness.
On the field of battle, I'll be walking. If you pick me up where I fall from my saddle, I'll be riding. I live life free until disaster comes. La 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 la, until it comes for me. La 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 la.
The days swiftly passed, and on the 61st day, the sun shone brightly. Tim sat in his cabin, gazing at the snowy landscape while enjoying venison stew for breakfast and plenty of firewood keeping the shelter warm. Tim was indeed the best survivor of the season. He intended to split the venison jerky in two, using a short-sleeved shirt as a meat bag, dividing jerky into tender and tough pieces. Tender pieces ready to eat. The tough jerky needed stewing, and as he sorted the venison, he found some had mold.
I can't believe the jerky is growing old, guys. Cut the mold off them.
Eat those first. How is this happening?
Here's a little knowledge for everyone. Although smoking can effectively extend the shelf life of meat, even in cold environments, changes in humidity and temperature can still affect the preservation of jerky. Daytime temperatures drop, and moisture condenses at night, leading the jerky to absorb moisture, creating conditions for mold to thrive. Plus, Tim maintained a fire in the shelter. By maintaining a constant fire for warmth, the indoor heat encouraged bacterial growth on the jerky. This is like season 7 of Alone, when Roland kept berries in his shelter, and they molded. Everything ended up molding and spoiling. Tim's staple now is stewed fish. While the jerky is only used as a snack to supplement protein, Tim is the most at-ease contestant living solo in the wilderness. His snug cabin in the Arctic winter is enveloped by falling snow. Inside, warm as spring, enjoying stew. Tim eats meat daily, still longs for food. As the Arctic nights extend to 18 hours, Tim, who always craved freedom, feels trapped in the small cabin for long stretches, and thoughts of missing his family start to intensify. He wishes the challenge ends soon, seeking joy in everyday tasks. He focuses on staying busy with routine tasks, not allowing himself to stop. Otherwise, I'd be consumed by thoughts of my family. It's -7 degrees now. The Mackenzie River is solid ice, so Tim opts for ice fishing to catch some fish. He tied the axe with a rope to prevent losing it while chiseling ice. He dunked his head in the river, then used an axe to cut an ice hole. He used premium venison as bait, hoping the fish would appreciate the offering. Tim set up multiple fishing spots on the ice to increase his chances of success. With plenty of lines in the water, a fish is bound to bite eventually. Ice fishing in such a cold environment poses the greatest physical challenge for Tim. Standing on the ice for long stretches causes his hands and feet to stiffen, so back at his shelter, he quickly lit a fire to warm up, using dry pine needles from a dead spruce as kindling. It suddenly flared up like gunpowder. Tim, worried that the flames might reach the shelter's roof, swiftly placed a pot of meat over the fire to contain the flames, fearing the shelter might ignite. Then everything Tim did would be burned along with the shelter. Luckily, he got the flames under control, stopping the fire from becoming a disaster. After this incident, Tim began to realize the shortcomings of his shelter, and he knew he might not be so lucky next time, so he planned to make changes to the shelter, aiming to prevent future incidents. That morning, Tim rose early to start his shelter renovation plan. Until the fire hazard is addressed, Tim's heart never feels at ease throughout the day. At this critical moment, a single error might force him out of the contest. He takes down the moose hide from the shelter's roof, as the roof above the fire had started to char. If it continued, the roof could ignite quickly. So Tim adjusted the deer hide on one side of the shelter. The moose hide, once a smoke barrier, can now shield the roof. With it removed, lighting a fire will cause smoke to fill the shelter again. The smoke will surely fill the shelter once more.
So now I don't have a smoke shield range here. But I'll just have to manage.
He reignited a fire to test it, and the room filled with smoke, just like before. The situation was a bit better than he thought, and it was still under control. Tim's struggling right now. It's been a while since he last caught any food. His fishing lines and snare traps haven't caught anything. Some of the jerky has gone bad, and the rest of the food won't last him long. The fear of running out of food is now a reality, and it's already minus 12 degrees outside. Snow blankets the ground outside, where a pine marten roams among the trees. Maybe it's hoping Tim will share some meat, but Tim's struggling himself at the moment. Like a clay Buddha crossing a river, he can't take care of himself. And even eating abides by the rules. Tim goes to the shore to inspect the fishing lines, where the snow is now over 10 centimeters deep. Walking turns slippery, and the snow created a major safety hazard for ice fishing. Despite the cold weather, the snow insulates the ice, slowing its freezing and making it thinner and weaker. Tim notices plenty of water beneath the snow and spots unfrozen open water ahead. Setup wasn't ideal for ice fishing. Once cracked open the ice hole, there was no fish on the line, but the bait was gone. This is a good sign. At least it shows the fish are active. The second line also came up empty in the frigid Arctic. As a result, Tim's toes were in pain, and his feet ached throughout the night. In Season 7 of Wilderness Survival, a contestant withdrew due to frostbitten toes. Back at his shelter, Tim checked his feet, assessing their condition by their color.
It's not black, and it's gray. And I would call it more like frost and nip.
If not frostbite, it's manageable. With warmth, you can recover. On the 68th morning, Tim headed to the snowy meadow to clear his throat. The meadow was now blanketed in snow, and it had been a while since Tim spotted any moose. Tim guessed the moose might have moved to Jack's camp or possibly to William's area. Unbeknownst to him, Jack had to leave after a medical check on day 21. He also thought that William might have hunted a moose. In reality, hunting a moose isn't as simple as he imagined. Spotting a moose doesn't guarantee a successful hunt for every contestant. Dubu, a contestant, spotted a reindeer early on. He wasn't ready to hunt, so he just watched the reindeer for a bit before moving on. It must be said that he truly missed a great opportunity. On the 24th day, Dub saw a moose appear on the grass in front of his shelter. He attempted to imitate the moose's call to lure it in. Once he had the male moose's attention, Dub advanced with his bow and arrow to hunt, but upon arrival, the moose was gone. The moose had long disappeared by the 27th day. While Dub was by the shore working on grouse meat, some wolves showed up across the bank, unable to hunt moose. Hunting a wolf for food seemed promising, but Dub waited until the wolves had gone. It seems the chicken in the pot is more appealing. On the 31st day, Dub headed to the shore for his routine fishing when a moose unexpectedly appeared, grabbing his attention. A male moose approached the shore to watch him fish and swaggered past him. Surprised by Dub's response, he observed the moose stroll past, bow and arrow ready, but took no action. Moose left. He didn't take action. Dub didn't hunt. You can only guess why Dub didn't hunt. I saw a moose and chose to go after it. Why decide to watch moose next time he saw it? River's width is no more than 20 meters. This was roughly the same distance as Tim's moose hunt, while Jordan and Roland hunted moose and musk oxen from afar. Dub stood on the shore, looking around. Perhaps he was starting to regret it too. In the Arctic Circle's winter, temperatures keep falling, so Tim gathers plenty of firewood daily to stay warm. Collecting firewood has become his daily task in winter. This winter actually came late for Tim. It would have been great if, like Roland, he had hunted a musk ox and it snowed the next day. Tim's moose meat is almost gone, and he hasn't been able to get fresh food. Could it really be proving what Tim said earlier? At the wrong time? Even if you bag a moose, it doesn't guarantee success. When Tim hunted his moose, he was in short sleeves, and it was 14 degrees. He wasted moose meat from improper preservation. Winter set in. He saw a family of moose again, but Tim was still well off, so he didn't continue hunting. But now he is troubled by the lack of food. Lying in bed, his shoes accidentally got burned by the fire. Truly as smooth as things were earlier, the more unlucky they are. These were Tim's only winter boots. He took out the shoe lining to check. Fortunately, there was no problem. Tim tried to go out and check the fishing line. Walking on the snow for a short time should be fine. He walked to the ice, used an axe to break through, and pulled up the line, exclaiming, "Hey, fish! Gotcha!"
Got a fish skylife.
When he pulled the fish from the ice, you'd never think it was worth $1 million. Just because in this brutal Arctic survival challenge, this fish could at least feed him for a week. At this moment, he was so thrilled that words couldn't describe his excitement. His heartfelt laughter resonating across the barren land was the perfect reward for his harvest. Indeed, the fruits of victory never disappoint those who strive for a better life. Back at the shelter, Tim chose not to cook the fish right away. He sketched a plan to divide fish meat on birch bark with charcoal pencil. Despite hunger and weakness, the smartest way to endure harsh Arctic cold was to ration food. Ration food wisely. In the Arctic Circle, Winter days stretch to 18 hours. Yet Tim averages only 8 hours of sleep each day, spending the remaining 10 hours in the shelter waiting for daylight. When bored, he carves wooden toys to pass the time. These toys played a role in his survival amidst the silent, icy Arctic wilderness. The wooden toys Tim carved became his emotional solace. This seemingly simple activity of carving wooden toys is not merely a pastime. It is one of Tim's ways to alleviate loneliness. These toys bring Tim joy, serving as a mental boost for his survival in the wilderness. However, play is play, and food is the true key to survival in the wild. Tim brings a gill net to the ice, intending to begin winter fishing. He used the gill net to measure the ice, chiseled 2 holes, and secured a rope to a tree branch. He stretched the rope underwater to the other hole, pulling the net through to the other side. After placing the net, Tim headed back to the shelter to warm up. Since his right foot was completely numb, his left foot was also in bad shape. The cold made his blood vessels tighten, reduced blood flow and oxygen delivery to the body, leading to poor circulation in the feet. This can lead to numbness, and soaking feet in hot water might help relieve it due to poor circulation. Tim's numb feet have severely affected his sleep. Last night, he only slept for an hour, enduring 17 hours of numbness. This has led him to consider quitting the challenge, as his legs have yet to recover. Poor circulation in legs can lead to muscle weakness, pain, and numbness, which limits mobility. Back at the shelter, Tim plans to make some pine needle tea to warm himself up. Although he eats every day, his body just can't seem to warm up, possibly due to his low body fat content. Despite his poor physical condition, Tim's mental state remains optimistic. Today is the medical checkup for contestants. Tim in the shelter, quietly watching the flames. His smile reflects a resigned acceptance of the wild. During the medical checkup, Tim is the thinnest among the 3 finalists. After the checkup, Dubu said something meaningful.
When they came up saying I had a mad check, I was like, dude, this has got to be in it. No, it isn't. It's back to woodcutting and freezing my ass off. But I don't know how many more days now. Oh, I want an audience. I want.
He anticipated being declared the winner, but felt let down. He still has to keep surviving in the wild by cutting wood. This might not be the most desperate thing. If Baduk saw Tim's pack of moose jerky, I bet he'd give up right away, probably because he hasn't had this jerky in ages. Suddenly, the jerky seems quite tasty. This pack of jerky is Tim's confidence to survive here. He avoids eating it unless he must, since eating jerky for too long has damaged his incisors. Tim's gums have been bleeding, which is a concern in such harsh conditions. Bleeding. Gums can lead to infection and gingivitis, causing pain and inflammation. Tim urgently needs fresh food, so he goes to the river to inspect the fishing nets. Noticing the fishing line is still, he figures there aren't any fish. As he expected, there were no fish, so he had to put the fishing line back. Checking the second line yielded no fish either. Tim grabbed a fish piece from the storage box. Initially meant for his dinner, Tim considered that other small animals might be hungry too. Surprisingly, he chose to leave the fish outside as a gift to the animals. Perhaps this act of kindness might be why Tim doesn't win the $1 million prize in the challenge. In the final round, temperature plummeted to -20 degrees. Tim was grateful to have survived to day 77, and on day 75, he played a game of chess, eliminating some pieces every day. The chess game was engaging and helped Tim fill his free time during these days. However, today marked the grand finale of this chess game. In this game, a piece named Timber won the match. It was currently the polar night period in the Arctic Circle, meaning the sun wouldn't rise for a long time, and daylight remained dim. The snowy landscape looked especially bleak, and the prolonged lack of sunlight made Tim feel low. While checking the traps outside, he saw long-awaited rabbit footprints in the snow. Haha! Tim's trap successfully caught a rabbit. This rabbit was extremely important to Tim, as it provided more than just fresh meat. The rabbit's organs are a valuable source of nutrition, with the liver rich in vitamin A and iron, which can boost Tim's immunity in the extreme cold and prevent anemia. Upon returning to the shelter, Tim first ate the rabbit's organs and head. Though often overlooked, the rabbit's head and brain provided Tim with precious protein and fat. In the icy Arctic, this rabbit meal was a feast. It replenished his body and gave him the motivation to keep going. On the 81st day, Tim woke up early and sat in the shelter. He recalled the noisy waterfowl by the river when he first arrived. Back then, he enjoyed the various calls of the wild animals. But once winter set in, someone pressed mute. The land became silent, and the sky turned dull. This gloomy environment had a profound effect on his mind, leaving him feeling lonelier than ever. By the time daylight came around noon, Tim went to the river to check the fishing line. The The temperature fell to minus 23 degrees, yet water remained under the snow. Tim heard the ice crack and knew this spot wasn't safe for fishing, risking a fall into the water. He collected the fishing line, knowing fishing was now hopeless. Tim had to pin all his hopes on the snare traps. But when he returned to the shelter, he sat inside, pondering his journey, realizing it had been an exceptional experience. Although he could survive on jerky until the 100th day, the tough jerky made his teeth ache. Tim had begun to accept his failure internally.
And I don't need to prove anything of VM who I'm know that it will go way past 100 days.
When he stepped out of the shelter, I knew the outcome. He hesitated in the snowstorm with the phone in hand, perhaps feeling reluctant about his previous efforts. But not a single day from the first day to now was wasted. Tim stood in the snowstorm, gripping the phone tightly, feeling the cold air piercing his insides. He knows that no matter what decision he makes, this challenge has been exciting for him. He hesitated, as if there was a belief urging him to keep going. Tim couldn't overcome his inner struggle. He could quit the competition, but not today, as 2 more days have passed. Tim was up early. Inside the shelter, Tim chewed on tough venison that hurt his teeth. But why not try cooking it in a pot? Tim knew he could survive on this jerky until the 100th day, but the endless waiting made him question its purpose. If it was just for money, he started to feel it was somewhat meaningless. The view was breathtaking at that moment, with heavy snow falling outside, while inside it was warm like spring. Tim's skills allowed him to survive better in this Arctic cold. He went from having nothing to no longer needing to prove his wilderness skills to anyone, so he realized he didn't want to wait aimlessly just for money.
I've done 83 days. I've succeeded. Hi, this is Timber. I'm officially tapping out today.
This time, Tim confidently dialed the phone without pause. When the crew showed up, he candidly explained his reasons for quitting in front of the camera.
Forced out by anything. I'm super happy. I'm happier than I've been in years. I feel alive. I feel fully alive. And I feel that I've really won the battle.
He was very happy to have spent this time here, during which he felt immense joy. He anticipated, excited, resisted, anxious, persevered. He can manage the chess pieces on the board, but life's pieces don't always move smoothly. Tim chose to leave not because of the tough conditions, but because he decided it was time. Tim secured more food than any other contestant in wilderness survival history. From the first day to the 83rd day, he managed to eat meat every day, and he was the happiest contestant in the history of wilderness survival. If hunting large prey could make one a legend, I dubbed Tim the blissful warrior. Though he didn't win the frigid challenge, he bowed out with honor. He persisted through loneliness, exhaustion, and adversity. In this battle with nature and his inner self, he ultimately found his own victory, teaching us that, in the wilderness, it's not just about surviving. It's about nurturing your spirit. That's a wrap for this episode of the Champion series. Don't forget to like and subscribe. More videos in this series are regularly updated. This episode covers the champion of the 8th season of wilderness survival, the most solitary winner in wilderness survival, turning around to find no one. Feeling lost, he embraced himself, but no one responded.
Oh, get the coffee ready.
All he faced was a cold camera. Yet this lonely king was fearless in the face of grizzly bears and dared to confront the watchful lions head-on. When he appeared carrying a deer leg, I was amazed. Next, I will use 14,000 words in 40 minutes to explain in detail how Cly won in this harsh land. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. On the first day, Clays did not rush to build a shelter, but instead explored the surroundings with a bow and arrow. It's a clever strategy because it helps you get to know the environment better. This approach eases fear of unfamiliar places and helps spot water sources, food density, animal paths, and potential danger zones. Identify the best spot for extended survival. Clays quickly spotted a porcini mushroom on the ground, a rare treat in the Arctic Circle before winter, with potassium, magnesium, iron, and trace elements. These minerals can prevent fatigue and improve the body's cold resistance. This plays a crucial role for Clays in building a permanent shelter next. He collected a full bag of porcini mushrooms, which are not just food, and uplifted Clays' spirits. I trust that good fortune favors those who prepare. While exploring, Clays unexpectedly found the surrounding environment densely covered with clouds and pine trees. He realized this would be a great hunting spot, and his steps began to slow down as prey appeared ahead. In a blink, Clays appeared with a grouse. Unexpectedly, the first dinner was chicken stewed with mushrooms. To hit a grouse with an arrow in such a dense and complex forest, this skill is closely related to his daily life habits. Clays and his family have long thrived in the wild, gaining expertise in identifying edible plants. His hunting prowess is remarkable. He crafts his own bows and arrows at home, using his outstanding hunting skills to fill the family fridge and feed everyone. Claes went to the shore to process the grouse, not overly excited about catching it, because he knew a single grouse won't last for days, and the real tough times are just beginning. Porcini stewed grouse is the wilderness's opening reward for Clay, and the first affirmation of his courage. Clay set up a pot to stew the grouse, worried that the smell might attract black bears, as bears can detect food within 20 miles. What you fear comes true. The sound of breaking branches behind him commanded his respect. But when he thought it was merely a branch falling, he felt an increasing chill behind him. When he looked closely, he grasped the moment's seriousness, watching Clays grab the bear spray twice. Instinctively reaching for the bear spray, I knew this was no ordinary encounter. A mountain lion was intensely focused on it, with Clays only 20 meters away from the lion. Mountain lions keenly sense movement, and when they notice something moving nearby, their eyes are like two blades, locking onto their target with precision. The air turned icy. The fear this apex predator instilled in Clays rivaled that of a bear. Despite the suffocating presence of the beast that would terrify most contestants, Clays, as tough as Roland, faced the mountain lion head-on. Facing the predator's stare, while others would steer clear, he boldly advanced, trying to hunt a mountain lion in a time when people have largely withdrawn from the wild. Living solo in the wild challenges contestants to defy norms, mirroring Clays's courageous choice to face danger head-on. However, I must remind everyone that if that mountain lion truly attacks with bare hands, humans have little chance. But courage drives them onward. Yet, the rules of the wilderness never change for courage. Cherish life and don't mimic. That night, thunder echoed across the sky. Clays lay sleepless in the tent. The thunder's sharp echoes a stark reminder of the wilderness's unforgiving nature. Suddenly, it was day 5, and hunger woke Clays just after 6 a.m. The recent downpours highlighted the importance of having an ideal shelter in the wild. Now, just at dawn, Clays plans to go fishing by the shore. On the second day, he crafted a fishing rod from a branch. Seeing the meticulousness of his rod, I knew the person matched the rod. Clays arrived early at the shore to fish. For him, solitude. He's used to solitude, thanks to his job's 6-month business trips. If he can gather enough food, Clays is confident he can last until the end of this challenge. By dawn, Clays finally caught his first fish.
There's the very first fish that it caught.
Seeing him display the fishing rod on camera left me thoroughly impressed. Using a scrap of metal, he fashioned a fishing lure and landed a 2-pound rainbow trout. With this rainbow trout for breakfast, the day feels as delightful as the scenery before him. On the 7th day, Clays came out early in the morning with a pair of pink shorts. He imitated Amos using shorts to catch fish. By securing the pant legs, they become a fish bag, and wearing it on your head adds flair. Recently, Clays caught several fish and feared the scent could lure black bears. He opted to hang the extra fish meat in a tree to keep it safe. With this fish meat as a food supply, while building a permanent shelter, Clays dared to go all out and work boldly. Under his efforts, the jungle cabin shelter quickly took shape. In a grove of spruce trees, he found the ideal spot to build his log cabin. In the winter, temperatures at Chilco Lake can drop to as low as -40 degrees. Facing the harsh cold, Clays filled the cabin's gaps with moss. A small cabin isn't warm enough, so he crafted a stone fireplace. Stones retain heat better than wood, and a wide chimney lets smoke escape efficiently, which is vital in this survival competition. Many contestants build fireplaces for warmth, and we can learn from them when constructing a fireplace. For example, Clay strips bark from wood above the fireplace smoke vent. The outer bark gathers heat and is the most prone to catching fire. Removing the bark from the chimney opening is to reduce the risk of fire. After the stone fireplace was built, Clays lit a fire in the shelter. Despite the fire producing a lot of thick smoke, the shelter remained unaffected as smoke exits through the chimney. The fireplace is Clays's reliance to endure cold nights. In the Arctic Circle, winter nights can last up to 18 hours. On lonely nights, the fireplace's glow and crackle offer solace. Clays's jungle cabin is perfect, but the shelters built by other contestants are equally admirable. Tim is the fastest at building shelters, and he plans to construct a slanted cabin. With black bears around, only a solid log cabin will make him feel secure. To fend off black bears, the contestant must choose sizable logs for construction. Tim chose 30-pound logs for building, drawing on his drilling expertise. For Tim, who is accustomed to high-intensity labor, building a simple cabin like this is a breeze. However, he completed this cabin in less than a day. I was truly amazed by the speed. Another contestant who built a slanted shelter was Jordan. He chose to use logs for construction. Those who chopped wood before would know. Chopping logs of this size is extremely tiring, and constructing a cabin shelter usually demands about 2,000 pounds of logs. Yet, every contestant builds their shelter. They seem unable to escape the fear of bears, which actually strengthens their resolve. Constructing the perfect shelter. With Jordan's gradual efforts, each wooden piece needs uniform length. Once the cabin's main frame was finished, another doorway was sawed open. So far, a small cabin has been mostly completed. Jordan crafted a bed from small branches, but its durability through the night is questionable. While building the shelter, Jordan balanced food and labor effectively. He caught a large trout, which could provide him with food for 3 days. He's among the few contestants skilled in stewing fish heads, and he smoked the leftover fish meat, truly making the most out of this trout. After a hearty meal, Jordan installed a wooden door, completing the permanent shelter. It's finally complete. Isn't this jungle cabin shelter an epic masterpiece of a perfect refuge? Contestant Michelle has a unique approach to shelter building. He plans to construct a trapezoidal shelter, which is relatively simple. He set up 2 tripods and placed a log between them as a crossbeam. Next, he just had to arrange the wood evenly and cover it with a tarp for waterproofing. However, such a shelter is too basic, and as a top-tier builder, it's impossible to settle for living like this. Michelle covers the shelter with spruce branches and seals one end with wood. What surprised me, however, was that Michelle also built a separate fire pit for cooking. This fireplace rivals a permanent shelter, earning Michelle the title of a wilderness construction master. Moreover, Colt impressed me. He's been competing for 4 days now. Colt lacks a fire starter. Initial fire making by friction exhausted him, making food supply particularly crucial for him. He didn't spend much time on a permanent shelter, but acted swiftly. He planned to build a raft to start fishing, a rare choice among contestants in wilderness survival shows. Typically, contestants take a week to build a raft, but Colt completed his in just 5 hours. Though it looks simple, after testing, he found the raft's stability far exceeded his expectations, and in the following days, as long as the weather was good, he would take the raft out for leisure, enjoying a vacation-like escape in the wilderness. He briefly forgot he was in survival mode. Bored, he sailed to deep waters to fish. Now, he lacks food. Colt plays in the wilderness, enjoying the wild while having fun. The raft successfully helped him catch a fish. Which champion wouldn't envy such a life? Yet, this is a rare case. Most contestants focus on crafting the ideal shelter. Vic started working on a permanent shelter right from the beginning, his high-fat content allowing him to endure the initial physical exertion. Vic's permanent shelter is the largest this season, requiring the most logs to be cut. He used peeled logs for the roof, minimizing the chance of the wood tearing the waterproof fabric. After completing the wooden structure, Vic considered the strong winds by the shore, so his shelter needed excellent wind protection. Rather than using moss to seal the gaps between logs, he lined the windward side with fir branches and covered the surrounding area with decaying tree stumps to create a double wind barrier. Once the shelter's main structure was done, the interior mattered just as much. Vic wanted to build a bed off the ground, which could be made simply by stacking wood and planks to form a wooden bed. The wooden bed was uncomfortable, so he gathered fir branches to create a mattress. He covered the roof with waterproof fabric, marking the shelter as complete. Finishing touches refined over time. Vic's wooden house was sizable and striking. The other contestants were formidable too. Teresa picked a great lakeside spot, considering chilly lake winds and winter's freezing temperatures, yet she wanted to enjoy the beautiful scenery every day, desiring both a view and warmth. A conventional wooden shelter wouldn't suffice, so she planned to build a semi-underground shelter here. Temperature below the surface is more stable than air. Teresa buried the shelter underground. This way, she could use the stable temperature layer for warmth, but without modern tools. Digging to build a shelter is more exhausting than chopping wood. Teresa used a stick to dig bit by bit, occasionally uncovering some small insects. These insects naturally became her nutritional reward for building the shelter. Indeed, all contestants aim for comfort, much like Teresa, who burns 350 calories per hour while digging. She dug the large pit from noon until 8 p.m. The pit remained incomplete. That night, asleep, Teresa heard a bear prowling the shore in search of food. She realized she needed to speed up the shelter construction. At first light, she worked on the shelter, shedding her jacket as the heat rose. If one layer wasn't enough, she'd shed another. Pausing for water, she couldn't afford to relax for a moment while digging. She used every tool available. She found a large log by the shore and placed it. She set the log as a pillar, filling gaps with stones and sand. Every detail had to be handled properly. And after securing the stakes, Teresa continued to build the framework around the shelter. She gathered the logs from the shore, saving her energy in the process. She used smaller logs to reinforce the supports, making sure the roof stayed sturdy. She planned to create a wooden roof structure, which required collecting many small logs. On the 13th day, Teresa set out to finish the shelter by covering the roof with the soil she had excavated. She had to place dead wood on the roof before adding the soil. This method resembled Bick's use of dead wood for windbreaks in his shelter construction, which was very effective, but required a lot of dead wood bark. The area had many spruce trees, allowing Teresa to gather bark easily. After placing dead wood bark on the roof, she evenly distributed the pine needles around the roof. In reality, building an epic shelter isn't as simple as it looks in videos. Every step and detail needs to be refined. If something isn't ideal, it has to be rearranged and organized again. She reserved space for a fireplace and chimney. With the exterior done, the next step is refining the shelter's interior. A comfortable bed is essential. So Teresa built a wooden frame, then laid wood on top of it to create a small wooden bed. Though we're in the wild, making a cozy home takes planning. After being busy for over 10 days, today finally offers a moment to catch their breath. Yet, this survival journey is just starting. Back to Clace's situation today, with strong winds and waves, Clace sees the major drawbacks of depending only on fishing for food. The strong winds made the gill nets useless, and the bad weather greatly lowered the chances of a successful catch. So, Clace figured that hunting big game was the only dependable way to get meat.
Long-term food isn't my main concern. Being able to shoot a deer is. It's the only way I'll make it to the end. So, I'm going to hunt bears.
For Clace, hunting bears was a risky move, given the abundance of bear tracks in the woods. If needed, he would target bears too. He hoped his efforts today weren't wasted. With his extensive deer hunting experience, Clace quickly recognized the open, shrub-covered slope as a deer habitat from the hilltop. But as he explored further, the sight of bear droppings made him gasp, signaling that black bears were likely close by. Clace paused there. He noticed a small cluster of white poplars at the mountain's base, but was uncertain about a path through the woods, so he decided to go down and take a look himself. Clace was situated in a scorched area where the dead trees and fallen timber made walking difficult. If you step into a void, you could easily get injured and have to withdraw. Clace carefully moved through the area, battling constant fatigue and lack of nutrition. This made him look extremely tired. However, what disappointed him even more was that there was no road in sight here.
No deer. That's not what I was hoping for.
期望的。谢谢你，谢谢你，谢谢你，谢谢你。You're welcome. If you have questions or need more help, just ask. To address the immediate hunger crisis, he had to put aside his plans to hunt large game. He shifted his focus to fishing for food, as staying alive is essential before chasing ideals. Considering Clace's current physical condition, he can't rely on starvation to burn fat and survive much longer. Acquiring food is top priority, needing urgent address. Returning to camp, Clace spotted bear droppings and claw marks on trees, signaling a black bear nearby. A bear is probably around, as they often leave marks on tree bark when passing by. Leaving long claw marks to mark its territory, sure enough, Clace spotted a grizzly bear nearby. Clace later recounted that the grizzly bear was only 12 meters from him. Luckily for Clace, the bear didn't charge at him. Grizzlies can weigh over 1,300 pounds and have a strong territorial instinct. Additionally, it's autumn in the Arctic Circle, when grizzlies gorge to build fat reserves. At this time, grizzly bears are extremely aggressive. Even Roland would have to be cautious. Although Clace has not yet caught any protein sources, he won't miss any edible berry resources. The weather is still quite warm, and storing them in the shelter won't keep them fresh. He intends to keep the berries on the west side, using the river's natural airflow to help preserve them, where cold air sinks to preserve them. Clace found a spot on the west side. He dug a pit, a technique taught by his great-grandmother. When he lived in Florida as a child, his great-grandmother used this method to keep milk fresh. He never imagined this method would be useful now. The newly dug hole was damp. He collected wood and moss, arranging the wood at the entrance to form a box. He lined the bottom with moss for insulation. Earlier, he collected a batch. Cranberries and vinegar not only serve as emergency food, and it can also provide some sugar. So even if large game is not caught, these berries sustain survival for several days. Time reached day 17. In the morning, Clace shared that he had an odd dream the night before. He dreamt of dining with his child, but woke up before placing the order. Hunger's making me lose it. Clace is really scraping by. Before bagging big game, Claes repeatedly attempted fishing. Luck seemed to be against this slim fellow. Each time a fish bit, it wriggled free and got away. If this continues, his shorts may fall. Past experiences with fish escaping the hook. Claes plans to make a net to scoop the fish out of the water before they can escape. Claes used branches to make a circular frame and wove a net onto it using thin strings. Claes had brought these strings as part of his gear, and weaving the net was a fairly easy task. In just over 2 hours, Claes had woven a fishing net. With this net, Claes regained his confidence in fishing. Claes returned to shore to fish, relying on it until he could hunt bigger game. Fishing remains his primary means of obtaining food. Claes stands on the reef, with the net barely touching the water's surface while standing. This setup simplifies fish retrieval. Just as Claes was about to begin, the fishing line slipped into the water, but it was a harmless scare. There was no real loss, and after reorganizing, Claes began fishing again. After more than an hour, no fish were caught. Today's luck is not favorable. Facing a food crisis, Claes remains determined to survive 100 days. Given his physical condition, relying on ILO like others is impossible for him. Hunting large game has always been Claes' survival goal, and he dedicates time to hunting every day. As a professional hunter, Claes' favorite activity is jungle hunting. Strolling quietly through the jungle, he sometimes stops to catch even the faintest sounds. Slight noises might indicate animal presence. Hunting requires enduring long waits. Just when he felt defeated, spotting deer droppings on the ground revived his hunting hope. Claes immediately became alert, as the deer was likely nearby. He noticed many deer tracks here, suggesting this could be their habitat, yet no deer were visible. Claes quickly considered returning to camp. He aimed to keep the area undisturbed for better hunting prospects in the future. After 6 in the evening, Claes got back to camp, feeling much more confident about hunting deer after today's find.
I'm feeling more hopeful about finding deer here, which is something to anticipate.
So far, Claes hasn't eaten meat for 14 consecutive days. Claes' urge to hunt a deer intensifies. A successful hunt ensures food and symbolizes a victory for survival instincts. The success rate for hunting large game can be as high as 90%. So Claes set out early with his bow and arrow. He aimed to revisit yesterday's spot, where deer hunting prospects were higher. Upon his initial arrival, Claes spotted fresh deer droppings on the ground. This was a good sign. The deer was likely nearby. Claes scans the area closely, noticing a deer resting beneath a tree up ahead. This was a perfect hunting opportunity, and he swiftly drew his bow and arrow.
I just shot him.
Claes successfully hit the deer, and this moment felt like he had 1 foot in the final round. The deer stood in the woods ahead, and now he just needed to wait for it to bleed out and collapse. Claes worried he might have missed the deer's vital spot. If he doesn't hit the vital spot, the deer could get away again, and time is running out. During this period, Claes felt both excited and anxious, eager to move forward and check. Seeing bloodstains, Claes realized deer was badly hurt, noticed foamy blood droplets, suggesting lung hit. The blood droplets showed foam, indicating the deer was hit in the lungs. This means the deer is doomed. Claes follows the blood trail and found broken arrows on the ground. He knew what broken arrows meant. Claes was so tense and overwhelmed by pressure that he could hardly remain calm. His eyes anxiously scanned the meadow.
All right.
When he saw the fallen deer, a sense of victory was fully acknowledged. At that moment, the tension in his heart finally eased.
Oh my gosh.
Claes aimed to hunt large game from the start. At last, he secured a deer as he hoped, showing that hard-earned victories truly reward those who strive for life. The deer Claes hunted weighs 130 pounds, which is indeed a huge victory, but it means he must quickly process the meat to prevent spoilage. Plus, the blood scent could draw in predators like bears and wolverines. Claes is eager to relocate the deer meat quickly. He cuts up the deer and hauls the pieces back to camp, which is 4 kilometers off, and he can't haul it all at once. Claes has to make 4 round trips, and each step on this mountain path is worth it, will be rewarded. After completing the last trip with the deer meat, he sits down to rest, ending his work. Now, he can finally catch his breath. Claes reflects on the immense pressure he felt due to food scarcity recently. But today, seeing the deer meat, all that stress and worry instantly disappear. In the coming days, Claes plans to make good use of this deer meat to live well each day. This deer meat will be key to his pursuit of the $1 million prize. After processing the 130-pound deer, only 50 pounds of meat remain, along with pounds of edible organs. The most important thing now is to swiftly preserve the deer meat, since wild food will dwindle before winter as bears expand range for hibernation food. Clay hauls deer meat to camp. The scent of blood heightens the risk of drawing predators. He avoids storing deer meat inside the shelter, but finds a spot to hang all the deer meat. Bears can stand up to a height of 2.4 meters. The higher the deer meat is hung, the safer it is. Claes hangs it in batches. Only after finishing this task did he finally get to relax and enjoy his dinner. Tonight's meal is deer heart, cooked in an iron pot. When fried, it emits an enticing aroma.
Buck heart, fried, and buck fat. Oh my God.
Claes's face shows the meat's deliciousness. The deer heart offers not only high-quality protein, but also iron, zinc, and various B vitamins. Claes's fatigue from the day gradually dissipates as he enjoys his dinner. The following morning, Claes inspects the deer meat and is relieved to find it free of flies. Unfortunately, with the temperature at just 1.6 degrees, the meat could spoil in a few days to a week. Like everyone else, Claes decides to smoke the deer meat for preservation, creating the first epic smokehouse in wilderness solitude. Claes gathers materials from the area, chopping logs weighing several kilograms, and constructs the smokehouse bit by bit. Similar to building a shelter, the logs used become increasingly thicker, and some might ask, what's the difference from a storage box? It's the wires for hanging meat inside the oven. To boost the smokehouse's heat efficiency, Claes fills the wood gaps with moss, and finally seals the top with wood, adding a thick layer of moss. A 1.5 meter tall epic smokehouse is now complete, and the next step is processing the deer meat. Claes slices it into strips. This method speeds up drying and reduces smoking time. The smoked meat becomes lightweight and easy to transport. Claes hangs the meat strips evenly on the wires as thick smoke rises from the smokehouse. It takes around 2 days to smoke 50 pounds of deer meat. This process has fully relieved Claes's stress and anxiety. After 2 days of intense work, it's time to relax and enjoy. Now he's drawn to savoring the wilderness's beauty. A rainbow appeared over the lake, and Claes on the mountaintop seemed close enough to touch it. It seems within reach, as if Claes could be gnawing on a deer leg right now. The scene is truly remarkable. At this moment, Claes feels more confident about the survival challenges ahead. Day 28. With over 100 pounds of deer meat, Claes is determined to last until the end. At this moment, he needs to scavenge as much of the precious fat from the deer's head as possible, which is as valuable as gold. The fat from the deer's lower lip and ears could keep him going for around 2 days. There's also a layer of fat between the cartilage and meat that should sustain him for about 2 days. After collecting the fat, he sewed up the eyes and mouth of the head skin, stuffed it with moss to make a leather doll, truly wasting such a good hide. Using it for stew might have supported me for 3 more days. Claes hung the finished deer head doll in the shelter, unsure. Getting up at night to use the bathroom can be scary. But besides the deer hide being fat-rich, the skinned deer head is a gem, and the deer brain is a rare treat. Brain tissue is a nutritious food source, rich in fats, proteins, and fatty acids. In cold climates, fat is vital for keeping warm and supplying lasting energy. What caught me off guard was him using the whole pot of cow brain, smearing it all over the deer hide. What a waste. Claes applies the deer brain onto the hide, using its natural fats to soften the leather, aiming to craft a deer hide chair. It's truly luxurious. It's like applying pure cash instead of deer brain. On the early morning of day 31, the deer meat finally attracted a grizzly bear. Claes stepped outside, headlamp on, scanning the area. In the dim light of night, with no sunlight, he couldn't see clearly, but he could clearly hear the bear's breathing, showing his courage. He returned to the shelter, sensing that the creature outside was formidable. He decided to wait for daylight to check, since winter had quietly settled in the Arctic Circle. Once it was light, Claes intended to explore nearby, and upon reaching the shore, he indeed found bear tracks, indicating it was a grizzly bear. This is not a good sign. If the grizzly continues to explore near the food, it might launch an attack on Claes. Worse still, Claes found bear tracks less than 30 meters from the shelter. Such large tracks suggest a weight exceeding 600 pounds. The grizzly had silently passed by Claes's shelter to the shore last night. If the grizzly returns, Claes could be in grave danger. For safety, Claes set up a warning line at the smokehouse. This alarm will be modified with a bear horn, which will sound if the grizzly hits the wire. Claes must protect the deer meat to win this challenge.
I want to win this meat, and deal with a grizzly bear to protect this meat.
Even with plenty of deer meat, what's the optimal daily intake for Claes to maximize his survival time? He divides the deer meat into small portions, consuming only 56 grams of jerky daily. But just depending on the deer meat won't last him. So he intends to fish daily. A 56-gram jerky portion only provides 150 calories, but Claes needs at least 2,000 calories daily to maintain his weight. The remaining calories must come from fish. But fishing is largely dependent on luck. On the 33rd day, Clays finds the deer hide frozen solid and starts to grasp its value, knowing the leftover deer meat won't suffice. Definitely won't suffice for his win. With winter setting in, berries on the ground disappear. Mushrooms picked are also gone, making fishing his only source of protein. Yet, he hasn't caught a fish for a month, adding unseen stress. If his fishing luck doesn't change soon, relying just on deer meat won't last him until he wins. As he fishes, the creature that kept him awake at night finally appears. A grizzly bear is walking along the shore, estimated to weigh around 600 pounds. Speaking of not catching fish, would encountering a bear be better? Not everyone has the courage like Roland to hunt a bear. Fishing might be safer. But sometimes, trouble finds you, even if you don't seek it. The grizzly bear turns and walks towards Clays, and Clays is frightened and hides in a tree. Life is precious. If you encounter a bear in the wild, it's advisable to hide first. Here, I want to speculate. If Clays takes a gamble and shoots an arrow at the grizzly bear and hits it, what would happen? If the bear attacks Clays and he jumps into the water to escape, would the grizzly bear succeed? Feel free to discuss this speculation in the comments. Clay tracks the grizzly bear's trail, curious about its origin. I was surprised how familiar this path became with each walk. Seeing my shelter, he suddenly realized.
Sucker was coming for a visit, man.
Clays kept tracking, and the grizzly bear surprisingly reached the berry burial site, even stepping on top of them. Fortunately, it didn't find the berries. Clays was unsure why the grizzly bear appeared. By day 35, Clays used ropes to stretch the deer hide, aiming to make it into a chair. The chair looked quite unique, and he sat on the wooden chair holding a cup of hot tea, leaning on a deer hide, sunlight warming his face. Snowy scene stretches out before me, making this moment delightful. But just then, the grizzly bear appeared nearby once again.
In the world is that? I just saw the bear walking down the beach. See him again.
I saw him again.
I just saw the bear walking down the beach. I see him again. I just saw the bear walking down the beach. I see him again. Curtain. Curtain. I just saw the bear walking down the beach. I see him again. The curtain falls repeatedly. Curtain, 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 curtain. See, cur.
See, cur.
The bear quickly fled, and Clays wasn't scared by the scene at all. He felt excited and thrilled. A hunter's mindset truly differs. Despite encountering mountain lions and grizzly bears, Clays boldly confronts them. He remains determined to hunt the grizzly and keeps searching the shore.
Bear! Bear!
It's worth mentioning that grizzly bears will attack humans if they sense danger. Even if struck by an arrow, it's hard to be lethal due to bear's thick skin. Target has a lot of fat, reducing arrow's penetration effectiveness, so it's advised not to easily imitate this. In the film, the grizzly bear repeatedly visited Clays' camp in search of food, which disrupted its usual survival routine, prompting Clays to use his bow and arrow to hunt the bear. I urge everyone not to try this lightly. Following the event, Clays mentioned he wouldn't go after grizzly bears anymore.
Yep, that's close enough for me. Let me track another one down.
Time flew by to the 45th day, and Clays gathered big chunks of moss from the ground. The shelter had started to crack after all this time. Clays planned to use the moss to fill the shelter's cracks, but first, he wanted to create an archery target with it. He stacks the moss beneath a tree stump, and, with his bow and arrow in hand, practices shooting from 10 meters away, mimicking a bear hunt. He'll be prepared to confront a bear next time. However, before hunting the bear, Clays wanted to seize the opportunity to fish. Fishing for Clays was mostly about chance, so he opted to try net fishing, a method he hadn't used before. With this idea in mind, Clays decided to build a tripod platform by the shore. His building skills remained strong, and fishermen often use tripods for net fishing. This season, Nate has already built a fishing platform, having devised a long-term fishing plan by the 14th day. Nate found lots of dead wood along the shore to build the platform, a platform extending further into the lake. Starting with a support frame, Nate carried 2 logs, gripping the frame as he waded into deeper water. Due to the strong waves near the shore, the frame suddenly fell apart during the transport. It looked quite messy, but for a strong wilderness survivalist like Nate, this setback was nothing. He learned from the experience. He began reconstructing the tripod, and after tweaking it a second time, Nate successfully moved the tripod to deeper waters this time. Now, he just had to add long wooden planks to complete the platform. This would form a platform, making fishing and net casting more convenient. Clays' platform wasn't meant to extend. It was primarily for placing gill nets. Just as Clays was working, a wild duck conveniently appeared nearby. He was eager to try duck meat. so Clyde immediately drew his bow to hunt the duck. Due to the rough waves, Clyde missed a hunting opportunity. As he prepared to lift his sword once more, the duck took off. He felt like he had missed an opportunity that was almost within his grasp. Although a duck doesn't provide much meat, the psychological boost from a successful hunt is highly positive for the hunter. Clyde didn't dwell on sadness for long. Instead, he quickly refocused on fishing. He tied ropes to the gill net and pulleys to simplify casting and retrieving. With just a gentle pull of the rope, he now has a handy fishing tool. It definitely simplifies things. This gill net will be Clyde's biggest hope. On the 48th day, Chilco Lake has its first hurricane landfall. The storm's eye is a few miles off, and Clyde, a local, is giving live updates on the hurricane status. From Pine Grove, Hurricane Chilco is about to make landfall. The winds are extremely strong. We'll keep you updated as the storm progresses. Thank you, Clyde, for your live updates from the front lines. Though fun has its place, fishing is essential for survival here. Today, wind and waves are fierce, as seasoned wild fishers understand. Fishing yields little to no catch. Clyde faced the same situation pulling up his gill net. Seeing no fish, Clyde had to return the net to the lake. However, different fishing methods can yield different results. Earlier on, Clyde had built a raft, which allowed him to set gill nets in deep waters away from the shore. The results from the gill net are quite promising. On the same day, Clyde's gill net yielded nothing, while Colton's net caught 2 big fish. Colton's catch of 2 fish was a lucky break, providing him with enough food for 2 days as he reached the 50th day. With hunting and fishing proving difficult, Clyde turned to mushrooms for sustenance. Early each morning, he ventured into the forest, seeking the prized matsutake mushrooms, fragrant venison stew with western matsutake mushrooms. Clyde inspected the gill net daily by the shore, yet always came back with nothing. It's not that Clyde was inexperienced. Those familiar with fishing might notice the location he was in. The area was a wide, shallow stretch by the shore, making it tough to catch fish. Despite the challenges, Clyde never gave up. He made some adjustments to the fishing system and cast the gill net back into the water, patiently waiting for luck to favor him. Clyde's repeated fishing failures were clearly taking a toll on his mood. Perseverance offered a chance for renewal. Each morning, Clyde would grumble. Dressing up was a hassle for Clyde. His thin clothes felt like nesting dolls, taking him 9 minutes to put on. With calmer waves and wind today, Clyde returned to the shore to inspect the gill net again. The hurricane had left him with nothing, but today, checking the net revealed tangled ropes. Even this small issue left him feeling overwhelmed, yet his least skilled gill net fishing saw a breakthrough. The gill net successfully caught a fish. This lake trout was his first catch in dozens of days, but the price was the net being tangled into a mess, requiring hours to sort out. Although this fishing attempt was successful, Clyde didn't feel it was a good spot. He wanted to cast the net deeper, thinking the area behind the rocks was better. Clyde moved a log and placed it diagonally on the rock to make a ladder. Then he brought the tripod here. Between the rocks is a deep trench. Placing the net here might increase the chances. It's now day 62. Being in this confined space for so long might be making Clyde uneasy. His enthusiasm for exploring the wilderness has gradually faded, so he has to rely on some daily tasks. To maintain his mindset, the wind and waves are strong today, and Clyde didn't check the net. Instead, he chose to try his luck hunting grouse, but the lion droppings on the ground made him gasp. They looked fresh, suggesting the lion is not far away. Clyde considers hunting a mountain lion and looks for signs of it nearby. Bagging a lion would definitely earn Clyde a spot in the annals of solo wilderness survival. Back at the shelter, Clyde used wood to make a whistle. This device can emit sounds like a deer call or an injured rabbit's cry. He wants to attract the mountain lion by mimicking animal sounds. Many have used animal sounds to lure prey. Roland, Jordan, and Tim have done it too. If Clyde manages to hunt a mountain lion this way, he'd be truly legendary. He went out hunting in the dark, but unexpectedly saw fresh bear tracks. If he has the chance to hunt a bear, that would be great too. Clyde searched around the area. He didn't find any bears or mountain lions. He doesn't want to provoke a grizzly bear, but if encountered, he wouldn't rule out hunting it. The idea comes to day 66 without hunting or fishing. Clyde can only pass the time by making some handicrafts. He expects the season to last around 115 days, meaning he had about a month left to endure. With enough food, surviving harsh winter is manageable if coping with loneliness. Success will follow. It's now the 68th day, and Clyde has lost all advantages. He finished his last portion of venison 3 days ago, and now all his hopes rest on the fishing net. If Clyde fails to catch fish, his survival hopes will dwindle. Fate often seems to toy with the vulnerable. The wind and waves left Kleist's gill net in a tangled mess. Faced with the tangled gill net, Kleist decided it wasn't worth fixing. He hadn't caught any fish, so maybe switching to rabbit traps would be wiser. It's day 69, and the scarcity of food and isolation are wearing on him. What to eat and drink, and how long until these problems are solved. It's the first thought on his mind each morning. Once he's up, Kleist intends to check the snare traps, hoping they've caught a rabbit. He reaches the traps and examines them individually, but he was quite disheartened by the empty trap. But just as he was losing hope, though not adept with traps, he finally reached a turning point. A trap to the west successfully caught a rabbit, which meant more than just food to him. Hunting success boosts his confidence and affirms his survival skills. Checking the last trap, scoring twice secures his victory, and these 2 rabbits, if rationed carefully, can last up to 10 days. After returning to the shelter, Kleist first stewed a rabbit's head to eat. Even though a rabbit head has little meat, its brain is nutrient-rich, rich in protein, fat, and trace elements, especially when food is scarce. Consuming rabbit brains rapidly replenishes energy. During the night, Kleist heard noises outside the shelter. When he got up to check, he found a wolverine nearby. Unfortunately, Kleist only managed to scare it away without hunting it. It was only later that he realized wolverines are predators, regretting not having dealt with it on the 70th day. Kleist woke up early to check the snare traps. Just as he feared, the worst had occurred. The footprints in the snow belonged to last night's wolverine. He followed the tracks, and sure enough, they led to the snare traps. Seeing the bloodstains, Kleist felt immediate despair. The wolverine had taken more than just a rabbit. It could have been worth $1 million prize. This wolverine had thoroughly angered Kleist, and he vowed to make it pay the same price. At night, while sleeping, Kleist kept waiting for the wolverine to appear again. At dawn, Kleist pulled out a family photo, and the familiar smile stirred both warmth and loneliness within him. Over many solitary nights, he became used to talking to himself and the natural world. Yet today, he couldn't ignore the emptiness in his heart. Tears quietly escaped his eyes, silently draining his strength and revealing his deepest vulnerability. His vulnerability in the wilderness, where loneliness cut deeper than the cold. No one grasped his fatigue and yearning. Only the unending silence answered him. Suddenly, it was the 74th day, and Kleist found himself by the shore, taking in the morning sunlight. He wished his wife and kids could see the view with him. The crew was due for a medical checkup today. Holding a hot tea, Kleist quietly waited at the shelter's entrance for the crew. Kleist reflected on his entire journey, initially being told by the crew that completing the challenge, he could win a substantial prize. But after surviving here for 50 days, he gradually began to lose interest in the prize money. As the daily toil, he slowly lost interest in the place. A rabbit remains in the pot. It was Kleist's final meal, and he doubted he could catch another rabbit. If he can't, then it's time to go home. When the crew came to give him a medical checkup, they asked about his situation here. "How are you feeling?" "The scenery is beautiful." "And that's not fun." "How many days do you think you have left in you?" "I can handle it and don't need to worry about anything else I can catch." Crew announced victory. Kleist turned away, hid his face. There was no one to celebrate his win with him. Not even the crew offered him a hug. The camera repeatedly filmed the champion embracing himself. Only heaven knows how much he longed to share this joy with his family at that moment. During this time, every word Kleist spoke went unanswered.
Get the coffee ready.
Overwhelmed, he sat back down, his heart racing and filled with helplessness. He was certain that the struggle with hunger and loneliness had finally ended. Kleist's endurance in the wild highlighted the human drive to survive and the personal test faced in tough conditions. The meaning of life lies not in easy victories, but in rising again after every fall. In the challenge's solitude, he faced the harsh environment. He fights his fears and fatigue, and every time he pushes through, it proves his resilience against tough challenges. Kleist shows how to keep going bravely, holding on to hope even when the future is unclear. Trust in yourself to reach the finish line. That's a wrap for this champion episode. You're welcome to like, subscribe, and support my channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next episode, where we feature the winner of Alone in the Wilderness, Season 11. You might not have heard of the name William, but his use of a stick and a snare to catch a grouse is sure to impress you.
I tell you, persistence pays off.
How did William, the luckiest champion in wilderness survival history, endure 84 days in the Arctic by nibbling on organ meats? Next, I will provide a detailed 13,000-word, 40-minute explanation of how William won this Arctic survival challenge. I encourage everyone to like and subscribe to my channel for support. On day 1, William began his strategy to claim the $1 million prize by pulling a fishing net from his backpack. He picked the fishing net for its practicality, simply because it saves time. I prefer not to spend time making fishing nets. I can use that time for other activities. He headed to the riverbank, chose a spot, and surprisingly, his first move was to cast a fishing net. His net casting appeared rather laid back. And as for catching fish, let's put that aside for now. As he arranged his fishing net, William shared an intriguing thought. I'm not hunting for big game. I've never bow hunted before, he admitted, acknowledging his inexperience with hunting large animals and using a bow and arrow. Sounds like a rookie move, right? Yet, William relied on fishing for his main meals. He sets traps to catch grouse, rabbits, and squirrels. His survival plan is greatly influenced by his daily life habits. William's expertise as a professional fisherman makes him adept at fishing. This is why he decided to focus on fishing as his survival plan this season, living in the Labrador region. Having honed his snow hunting skills, he's adept at crafting snares for rabbits and wolverines. Reading William's introduction, doesn't his survival plan seem quite reasonable? While William seems inexperienced, he has a solid survival plan. He knows his strengths and has made a plan that fits him perfectly. Knowing oneself and opponent ensures victory. Whether black or white, a cat catching mice is good. After setting fishing nets, William found a spot, building a temporary shelter, focusing on saving resources. He plans to construct a lean-to shelter. The lean-to is one of the simplest shelters. But for the robust William, merely chopping down a single log, the physical exhaustion was tough for him. Not to mention constructing a massive log cabin with heavy logs like Tim did. During a break, William went to the shore to check the gill net and successfully caught a barracuda. Just hours after setting the net, catching the barracuda felt surprisingly effortless. This briefly inflated William's confidence, making him forget that barracudas are aggressive predators. While handling the barracuda, it slipped away unexpectedly. His dinner vanished in an instant, leaving him standing there in disbelief. His excitement was snuffed out by despair before it could even take root. That night, the fish that got away felt like a thorn lodged in William's heart all night long. As he dwelled, the incident seemed more unreal, keeping him awake. Before I knew it, 2 days had gone by, and surprisingly, William is still preoccupied with the barracuda he lost.
That week, that was a bummer.
He craved fish meat as he absent-mindedly picked berries to eat. As he searched for berries, he noticed traces of a rabbit passing through the grass. William immediately thought of setting up some snare traps here. He had planned to hunt rabbits post-winter, but setting traps sooner seemed wise now. Seeing rabbit droppings convinced him there were plenty nearby. William set up snare traps along the rabbit's path to maximize the chances of catching one. After placing the traps, William explored further and found a grassy patch. To his surprise, he discovered many sweetfish in the creek. These are small, bony fish similar to trout. William then picked up a stick to fish. With one swing, William caught 2 small fish. For someone who hadn't eaten in 2 days, those 2 fish weren't nearly enough. So William kept fishing for more in the same spot. For a while, William was lost in the joy of fishing, even if these small fish might not impress other contestants. At that moment, William was unconcerned about the size of the fish. His priority was having enough to eat. He caught 5 small fish today. Fishing brought back memories of catching fish in the pond as a kid. His grandmother would fry them for him, and those small fish brought William joy and fond memories. After 4 quick days, William chose to inspect the rabbit traps at dawn. He resided on a hillside, requiring a long walk whenever he needed water or went hunting. Eventually, this would definitely sap his energy significantly. If winter brought snow, he'd be much more likely to slip on the hillside. As William approached the snare traps, there lay a rabbit on the ground. This sight instantly excited him, as it was the first prey he had hunted. Arctic hare shifts from gray-brown to white as winter approaches. The hare's belly is now winter white, but its back still shows the gray of late summer. This quietly signals the coming Arctic winter. A snow hare provides 2 meals. Despite having plenty of food, William opts not to feast. Instead, he plans to store the rabbit first, as he has already caught a barracuda during this time. This fish was enough to sustain him for a while. William chose a spot by the river and placed the rabbit there. He stored it in a cavity where the river's airflow kept it cool. Rabbits stay fresh here for 6 days, yet William isn't the only one enjoying a plentiful harvest. By the 5th day, Peter had already fully implemented his fishing plan. He used a snare line to make fishing bait and successfully caught a 24-inch pike, which provided much-needed energy. Taller than a rabbit, Peter also wove a net with thorns, which turned out to be doubly successful. While he was still handling the net, he quickly moved to another fishing rod, and in no time, he appeared holding a burbot. However, his luck didn't stop there. The 3rd rod by the shore also had a catch. Pulling left and right, Peter fished until his hands were sore. This wasn't just fishing. It was like reeling in millions of dollars. Today's catch of 5 fish can provide Peter with over 10,000 calories. When Peter showed off a 36-inch pike in front of the camera, it was quite a spectacle. His fish supply instantly surged, and Peter couldn't possibly eat it all at once. The first thing Peter needs to do is store the fish. Back at camp, Peter quickly begins chopping wood to construct a smokehouse. It's autumn in the Arctic Circle, making refrigeration for fish preservation impossible. Smoking is the only way to quickly dehydrate the fish while adding flavor, making it taste even better. After constructing a framework with branches, Peter uses moss and bees to make a smokehouse, which will take about 2 days to cold smoke. These 5 fish, a typical challenge in Arctic survival. Why does that matter? It seems Peter's luck has shifted to Tucker, who's caught a squirrel. While a tiny squirrel isn't a grand meal, the joy and thrill it gives the contestant can't be measured. Tucker cleans the squirrel by the shore, using its innards as fishing bait. A small squirrel makes a big pot of stew. And as Tucker enjoys his squirrel stew by the shore, good news comes from the fishhook beneath him. When he pulls up the fishing line, it's the best reward for his efforts. His heartfelt laughter, echoing through the wilderness, is the best feedback for his harvest. A 24-inch pike may not be large, but it's enough to keep this 35-year-old young man happy all day. Dub wakes up early to check the gill net, hoping to catch a fish today. After 6 days without food, he's starting to feel uneasy. When he pulls up the gill net, it holds a plump pike, so large that he mistakenly thinks he might become the champion.
Close. It's a close call, man.
A 36-foot pike is indeed the largest fish caught by a contestant so far. With his stomach growling at 6 o'clock, hungry Dub set up a pot to stew fish. He cleaned the pike in the river, cut the fish meat, and put it into the pot to stew. This 36-inch pike offers him 2,400 calories as he gazes at the pot, brimming with fish meat. The heavy fish head was mercilessly hung aside by him. Isn't that a bit wasteful? Fish meat in his stomach made him exclaim its deliciousness. On the 8th day, during this time, William had already built a permanent shelter. A shelter this basic makes winter survival tough. He headed to the shore for mud and came back to the shelter. Began building stone fireplace. Stones have heat-melting properties. This allows them to absorb and store heat. William also mixed hay and clay together. This improves the stone's adhesion. As he went to gather more clay, he found a grouse flying. William doesn't use a bow and arrow, but he tied a snare on a branch. He wanted to use this snare to catch the grouse by its head, thus capturing it. As long as the branch is long enough, the grouse won't be frightened. William just chased the grouse with the snare. I don't know if you feel the same as I do. The first time seeing William's hunting behavior felt very absurd and unreliable. But this seemingly absurd and unreliable hunting behavior was successfully used by William to capture the grouse. Seeing him catch the grouse, I was shocked at the time, and he summarized the experience of this successful hunt. After watching William's hunting process, I began to have some understanding of this bald uncle in front of me. Assumed making fishing nets and using bows and arrows were survival skills. From William's failure to use a finished fishing net to catch fish, to William saying he had never used a bow and arrow for hunting, or when building a simple, permanent shelter. Perhaps William isn't inexperienced, just not obviously strong. Today, he doesn't plan to eat the grouse he hunted immediately. He tucks the grouse into a rock crevice to preserve it and keeps exploring nearby with his snare. Grouse are plentiful, and William quickly snares another. If every champion could be revered, then William is undoubtedly the snare god. In just 10 days, William first caught a big fish, then rabbits and grouse in succession. Suddenly avenged, he now has the courage to enjoy the wilderness. Oh yeah, let's do the happy dance this morning. He strips naked and lies on the hilltop, basking in the sunlight. He removes underwear to sunbathe and sterilize it. Contestants are limited to 2 intimate clothing pieces. I wonder how people managing over 60 days handle underwear. How do they manage? After sunbathing, as he gets ready to cook, William heads to the rock cave where he kept the grouse, only to find feathers everywhere. Surely a surprise from a predator. When he checks the cave, it's already empty. The urban grouse makes William realize, in this frigid environment, keeping food safe is tougher than finding it. Lack of food storage awareness cost William dearly. On the 20th day, William cooked breakfast early. He put birch into a pot to boil. After cooking, he peels and eats it. Birch bark contains starch, sugar, and vitamins. When food is scarce in the wild, you can eat this bark to supplement sugar and carbohydrates. William eats bark to experience life. He's had great success fishing. Every time he reeled in his line, it was his best reward. But he turned all 3 fish into smoked fish for storage. When he's hungry, he gathers berries, much like the older generation who faced hardships. Perhaps William gets this. Finding food is simple, but without a bow and arrow, he misses hunting opportunities. That's why he cherishes the food he acquires early on, trying to save it for later consumption. This might be a good survival strategy, but if you don't have a belly as big as William's to store fat, avoid attempting. William inspects gillnet daily at shore. Today, the gillnet caught a whitefish, which is a migratory species. For William, this catch is a positive sign, showing he successfully landed a whitefish. During the peak of the natural cycle, if William can seize this salmon migration period, storing hundreds of pounds of salmon for smoking is no problem. William gathered quite a bit of food. He often stored food, but it usually got stolen by predators. This time, he put the fish meat in a gator bag. Yet once more, he stored it. Hanging fish meat on the tree, William is the only contestant this season who hunts but doesn't eat, compared to other contestants who seem ravenous like hungry ghosts. Sarah's building a permanent shelter, but it might resemble a bird's nest. In terms of skill, compared to those who build epic shelters, it's way off. You just have to stack all the leaves on top. Sarah's luck has been so poor from the beginning. You might think she's on the wrong show. While hunting, she hasn't come across any game, so she's mostly stuck to a vegetarian diet, with mushrooms as her mainstay. During tougher times, she dug up roots to eat, but never stopped hunting. Seeing a grouse, Sarah drew her bow and released an arrow, effortlessly bagging a grouse, proving Sarah's hunting skills remained sharp. After catching the grouse, Sarah immediately took a pot to the shore to prepare it. It can be seen how anxious he is to stew meat if he persuades Salad to learn from William at this time. I kept the grouse in a stone cave to preserve it, thinking Sarah might hurl the iron pot at me. Sarah made grouse stew, sampling the meat before trying the broth. She saw this grouse as a game changer. In the days after, he aimed to hunt grouse daily. When he raised 2 grouse, Sarah firmly claimed the title of Grouse Queen. However, Jack was the first to challenge her. What were mere 2 grouse compared to his catch? Jack effortlessly pulled up 2 pike.
Holy crap.
Each pike was over 10 pounds, and these 2 fish easily outclassed Sarah's grouse by far. If Sarah's grouse marked a turning point for her, then Jack's 2 fish are his, pushing him to quickly figure out how to preserve the meat. Jack built a simple smokehouse on the shore using spruce branches. After several hours of smoking, Jack eagerly took out a piece of fish to eat. Smoked fish tasted amazing. After the meal, Jack lies in the grass by the shore, his hunger and fatigue from the last 20 days gone. He just wanted to savor the peace and comfort of being full. But when he woke up from his nap and returned to the shore to check the gill net, a huge surprise was waiting for him. As Jack lifted the gill net, he briefly questioned if he was dreaming at the sight before him. The net had caught 3 fish, and one of the pike even had a burbot in its mouth. I scored big time on these. That looks like a borbot.
Look at this.
Jack couldn't believe his luck and was utterly thrilled at that moment. Feeling as if he'd stumbled upon a treasure, Jack was speechless with emotion. Jack sorted his catch, and these 3 fish would sustain him for a week. But there was an even bigger surprise than Jack's. He hunted a 1,200-pound moose. Tim's instructional video has been updated for all to see. You can check it out on the homepage. The second group also caught plenty of fish. Only the contestant using a bow and arrow went to check the trap and found a successful catch. Rabbit, Michaela's first prey. Upon returning to camp, he started preparing rabbit meat, highlighting hunger that drives survival in the wild. This rabbit gave Michaela confidence, and she boasted that she would survive here for a long time. To my surprise, when she checked the gill net at the shore, the gill net successfully caught a large pike, but Michaela didn't show any happiness. Instead, she turned around and released the pike. The reason was that she caught the fish, so she wouldn't enjoy it if she wasn't happy. Feel free to comment with your thoughts after watching this scene. Michaela caught a fish but didn't feel happy and released it. However, Dub was the opposite. Dub caught a 36-inch long pike. The fish thrilled him, and in his excitement, his judgment was clouded. In his excitement, he forgot the fish was alive, and as he showed it off to the camera, it suddenly wriggled free and slipped back into the river. Watching Dub's joy turn to sorrow nearly made me smile. By then, it was already the 20th day. For the past 3 days, William has been up early hunting for berries to eat before they all drop with the coming winter. He found a plastic bottle on the ground, which can be used as a urinal. With this urinal, he avoids cold wind when getting up to urinate. William inspects the gill net daily by the shore, and with the Arctic Circle's temperature steadily falling, most of the fish have moved to deeper waters, making future catches even harder. William turned his attention to rabbit hunting, placing several snare traps around the camp. His ability to have meat post-winter hinges on these traps. William opted to retrieve the fish he'd stored in the tree for 3 days to eat. On his way back to the shelter, William saw a flock of crows flying overhead. Crows are social scavengers, and their presence indicates nearby prey. William suspected the crows were eyeing the fish he'd stored for 3 days. Unbeknownst to him, the crows had no interest in his small stash. Actually, the crows were drawn to Tim's moose dissection instead. William made fish soup for lunch and consumed every bit of the leftovers, showing his frugal lifestyle in the wilderness. As the temperature drops, a flock of migratory birds soared above, indicating winter's near in the Arctic Circle. William started enhancing his shelter. A warm shelter is crucial for the contestants' sleep, and obtaining food has become an essential daily task for William. He modified a fish hook with wire to create a double hook device, tying colorful strings on it as bait. Now, William has 3 sources of food. First is fishing. The second involves trapping rabbits. And the third is gathering berries. The energy gained from berries is negligible, while hunting rabbits requires more luck. So, William put all his energy into fishing, picking a debris-filled spot on the shore. Understanding that pike are ambush predators hiding in woodpiles, William, being a skilled fisherman, wisely chose this spot. He chose this fishing spot, and it quickly yielded results. William continued to cast his hook here and successfully caught a pike. The pike helped alleviate William's food shortage, keeping him going for another 2 days. Whenever William got food, he always leaves the food outside, as if he's hiding a secret stash in the wild. Every time William gets food, he takes a moment to enjoy himself. Last time, he basked in the sun on the hilltop. Now, he admired the view. Suddenly, I realized I hadn't checked the snare traps in days, wondered about any catches. In the Arctic wilderness, competition for food is fierce. Even if you catch food, predators like wolverines and birds of prey might steal it. Therefore, successfully hunting food is incredibly fortunate. When William checks the traps, a rabbit appears. This snowshoe hare could provide William with 2 meals, a hearty meal for the day. After catching the hare, William kept setting traps in the same area. These traps might keep supplying William with food, but it's unclear how long his luck will hold. At camp, William made a large pot of rabbit stew without any seasoning. For William, who had been hungry for 30 days, this plain water stew was still delicious. Survival in the wilderness boils down to a calorie contest. In a place with scarce food, obtaining more calories will win. Rabbit brains are a rare nutritional resource. Animal brains are rich in nutrients like vitamin B, iron, and phosphorus, offering health benefits to William. After a filling meal, he sets aside the rest of the rabbit meat for dinner. Suddenly, it's day 31, and William wakes up in his shelter. Sunlight pours through a gap in the shelter, landing right on his head. He yearns to bask in the sun once more. Stepping out of the shelter, he notices the chill in the air and sees the frost on the grass. A quiet Arctic warning, signaling below freezing and true winter is near. Not many mornings remain to bask in such lovely sunshine. While William is sunbathing, an uninvited guest arrives to his fish, which he has been reluctant to eat. A pine marten is swiping his fish, but luckily, William catches it early. He stands there, scolding the pine marten for its misdeeds, but it just keeps gnawing the bag, oblivious to his words. Plus, since it can't understand William, it doesn't really care. If chaos erupts, fish in the bag takes priority. Pine martens are protected animals, so besides scolding it, William can only take the food down himself. The pine marten destroyed the storage bag and shredded a fishtail. Yet William still sets up the iron pot. He stews the fishtail because it's his only food left. Even now, I still wonder how William's situation compares to Tim, who obtained thousands of pounds of moose meat. On the 35th day, the Arctic wilderness changes overnight, indicating that winter has officially arrived in the Arctic as temperatures plummet. The body needs fat replenishment, and high-fat foods help keep it warm. In winter, beavers are the plumpest and greasiest animals. Right now, William is thinking about hunting them. Fortunately, he had set up snare traps by the shore a few days ago. Now he wants to go check them. Unexpectedly, he actually caught a beaver. William sees this as a hunting setback, because the beaver is small, not the large-sized beaver he was hoping for. Nevertheless, catching food is still a reason for William to be happy. This 15-pound beaver matches the weight of 3 rabbits. Yet beavers contain much more fat than rabbits. One has to admire William's impressive snare and the strategic placement, which showcases his strong survival skills. William's meat supply is dwindling, and he desperately needs a hefty beaver for winter provisions. Back at camp, William immediately starts processing the beaver meat, not storing it for days like before. Beaver meat is rich in fat, making it the Arctic's top energy source. Unlike rabbits that can endure hunger better, Catching this beaver for William was akin to discovering a supply depot in the Arctic wilds. I initially expected him to have a feast, but surprisingly, he just cooked the beaver's head and wrapped the remaining meat in the beaver's skin, hiding it under rocks. After losing some to predators before, William is now careful to protect his stash, ensuring the meat is safe from being stolen. In this cold wilderness, every saved bite is a guarantee for tomorrow. William's frugality extends beyond meals to his shelter as well. The space inside is very narrow, barely enough for a bed. Made of wood and waterproof fabric, it's likely the simplest wilderness survival champion shelter. Time has reached day 43. William carried his iron pot into the cave, intending to get some meat to eat. He stored all his food in this cave, which, during the cold Arctic winter, the cave acts like a fridge, and I have to shift rocks each time I need meat. He grabbed a beaver paw, highlighting William's knack for maximizing resources. William gathered some snow to cook the beaver paw, which, though not very meaty, beaver paws are a good source of protein, potassium, and iron. With an entire beaver at his disposal, he chose to stew just one paw to savor. He wasn't holding back because he wasn't hungry. The Arctic makes you conserve even your celebrations. In the blink of an eye, 2 more days have passed. A casual remark from William has unknowingly become a wish beyond his reach. When he checked the snare traps, all of them were empty. William wasn't worried about the empty snares, believing he could rely on his beaver meat stash. When he got back to his food cave, he searched under every stone, but the beaver meat was gone. I can't find it anywhere. I believed the stone storage box was ideal, yet it still fell victim to predators. William was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. William was baffled by how the predators swiped his beaver meat, leaving him empty-handed. The food William had carefully saved is gone without a trace. It's unclear if he still sees today as a good day. While it's a shame about the beaver meat, William thinks setbacks might actually be hidden blessings. I admire William. With his mindset and situation, he might emerge as the champion, which astonishes me further. It's now -6 degrees, and the ice is thick enough for him to walk safely. William intends to craft an ice ladder for fishing, spreading his weight over the thinner ice, letting him safely reach the ground if he falls through. He uses emergency rope. He ties the rungs of his ice ladder on both sides, essentially making a regular ladder, but used horizontally on the ice. Just as William is making the ladder, a grouse flies past him, but he doesn't know where it lands. When he is about to give up, another grouse flies over his head, which is the last straw. Faced with such blatant temptation from the grouse, William immediately grabs his gear and goes hunting. Such primitive hunting methods. Although it looks clumsy in William's hands, it becomes a magical tool, a wooden stick, a loop. Simple like a toy. Yet he manages to snare the grouse from the snow with it. Relying not on equipment, but on William's skills. William is indeed a snare warrior. Days of hunger have almost allowed him to taste the chicken in advance. His feather plucking speed has improved greatly, and he's bursting with energy. William clutches the grouse, singing and dancing. He's not just celebrating the catch, but a triumph only those who've truly experienced wilderness hunger can grasp. He complains about the unfairness of the stolen beaver meat, yet regains hope with his indomitable spirit, seeing the spirit of wilderness survival in William. This grouse can provide William with a hearty meal, but instead, he chose to eat the chicken liver and gizzard raw, preserving the rest of the meat. Notably, eating raw food in the Arctic poses a lower infection risk. In the Arctic, grouse is safer to eat than in warmer areas because the extreme cold limits parasite and bacteria survival. Also, since grouse only eat plants, their innards are among the cleanest wild foods. What's more, in the case of continuous starvation and a drop in body temperature, the liver and needles provide the fastest. While a direct source of nutrition, William isn't the luckiest. On the 24th day, Dubu's gill net caught a giant 44-inch pike. This pike provided Dubu with protein and calories equivalent to William's 10 grouse. If Dubu follows William's frugal eating habits, he can survive at least an extra week on this pike. Dubu cuts the fish into pieces and then smokes them on a clay oven. On the 27th day, Dubu hunted a grouse. For someone used to catching plenty of fish, grouse meat tastes much better in the wilderness. When you're starving, enjoying a pot of tasty grouse meat truly brings happiness. On the 37th day, Dubu went to the riverbank as usual to check the gill net. The net had caught another fish, but it wasn't a pike or whitefish. It was a fatty fish known as an ulachan, migrating annually to spawn. Landing this fish was a real stroke of luck, giving Dubu enough food to last 3 days. After returning to camp with the fish, Dubu checked the lines again and surprisingly caught another one. This is a 50-pound pike, and it can provide Dubu with a week's worth of food. Right now, Dubu holds the title of the season's leading fisherman, with up to 100 pounds of fish stored in his shelter. Despite Dubu's good fortune, he still lags behind the first-place contestant. Tim hunted a 1,200-pound moose, but he also had great luck fishing. On the 30th day, he caught a 24-inch pike, which, although not large, was enough for 2 days' meals. As he prepared to savor the moose stew, there was more commotion by the shore, and a 40-inch pike was hooked. Nearly too heavy for a one-handed lift, this pike could sustain Tim for a week. To enhance his fishing advantage, Tim crafted canyon hooks from moose bones, which also brought him good catches. Compared to these two top contenders in the finals, William's grouse doesn't even qualify for the finals. By the 57th day, the Arctic wilderness was frozen. William attempted ice fishing for more fish, using grouse entrails as bait after cutting through ice. William still felt he had a good chance of winning, even though his stored grouse and beaver meat were stolen by predators. But this amount of food is really nothing compared to Dubu and Tim in the finals. Why is William, lacking meat reserves, confident he can claim victory? After setting up the fishing line, William went back to camp to cook the grouse he caught on day 46, surprisingly using a pot to stew meat. For a skilled wilderness survival contestant, this is not the way to cook food. This grouse was William's last food, and he ate while watching the fishing rod on the ice. Just when he was about to give up, the fishing rod on the ice offered a breakthrough. William excitedly ran to the ice to retrieve the fishing line. Seeing the taut line in his hand, it was clear that a fish had taken the bait.
That's the biggest pike I ever caught on a hook. Look at a monster.
When the 36-inch long pike was pulled onto the ice, William couldn't contain his joy and shouted out loud. This pike weighed 16 pounds, the largest fish William had caught so far. This fish was enough to feed him for a week. For William, the fish was not just food. It symbolized his courage and confidence to persevere. It bolstered his journey to the $1,000,000 win. After losing the beaver meat, William was under a lot of stress, but this fish made up for his lack of food perfectly. He quickly cleaned the fish on the ice and discovered a row of fish roe inside its belly. The roe was like a secret energy stash. Eating it offered great nutrition, but also a high fat content. Using fish roe as bait was excellent. It could lure different fish species to breeding spots. After preparing the fish meat, William discarded the bones on the ice and returned the processed fish to the water. Ultimately, he just kept some fish roe. William had an odd habit. Whenever he got food, he'd keep the food for a few days before eating. Never sure if he'd have more later. Time reached day 59. With Arctic nights lasting 18 hours, the sky only began to brighten after 10 a.m. Due to prolonged unbalanced diet, leading to malnutrition, William's hair was falling out. Ice fishing had given him a taste of success, so William went to the ice early to check the fishing lines. The success rate with just one fishing line was still too low. William decided to set up more fishing lines to increase his chances, naming each hole, such as the whitefish hole. After arranging fishing lines in pike and onu fish holes, William cut ice blocks. He planned to create an ice storage on the surface and store a bag of fishing bait inside. This way, he could easily access the bait while fishing without the need to carry it each time. On the morning of day 63, William set out with his basic gear and noticed a grouse perched high in a tree. He successfully caught it, showing that the early bird truly catches the worm. He might have an extra meal today. William checked the ice fishing lines next. Bait remained untouched. Caught nothing. Winter fishing harder. Yet the fruits of victory would not disappoint anyone striving for a better life. When William pulled up the underwater gill net, he found a big fish caught in it.
Great fish. Oh my God, it's the biggest one yet.
William had caught his largest whitefish to date. Whitefish are high-fat fish with fat content much higher than ordinary freshwater fish. The over 30-pound whitefish in William's hands eased some of his pressure for the coming days, yet he still chose not to eat it immediately, instead expanding the ice storage. He stored fish meat there, as if enjoyment was a forbidden word to William. Since he didn't know how to enjoy, someone else would do it for him. A pine marten tried to steal from the ice storage, but the solid ice blocks left it helpless. William trusted the ice storage's security, leaving the pine marten to search fruitlessly. He had a big heart. Time moved to day 66, and William, as usual, set traps for grouse in the trees. This trick never failed him, earning him the nickname Trap War God. He cleaned the grouse meat in the snow, and the leftover innards drew in a small bird. But these small birds were not his target. As usual, he treated himself to some chicken liver and gizzards, saving the rest of the grouse meat for later. Checking gill nets and fishing lines was his daily task. He had been here over 2 months, but William did not experience longing for family as other contestants. Like the other contestants, missing his family was entirely due to his work habits. William works as a fisherman, often spending months at sea. Being away from family was routine for William, giving him an edge in the solo wilderness challenge. William retrieved the fishing line from the water, catching his first fish through ice fishing. The fish stayed in water to stay fresh. When lifting the gill net, he caught an onu fish, which instantly excited William. He couldn't believe he managed to catch such a large fish.
That's like the dream. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Onu fish contains 19 times more fat than pike, making it a true fat bomb. In the Arctic winter, participants often need to consume more fat to stay warm. Survival isn't just about a big meal. It's about the stability and hope a catch like this brings. At this moment, the wilderness ceased its demands and for the first time, offered him abundance. However, William continued as usual, securing food each time. He eats sparingly to save the meat for later, planning to savor it properly when his body can no longer hold out. On the 69th day, William plans to build a simple shelter to shield himself from the wind and snow while warming up outside. Because the permanent shelter he built was too rudimentary, he couldn't live and stay warm inside it. Each night, he warmed stones outside and brought them into the shelter for heat. He sometimes warmed his clothes before bed, showcasing his unique survival techniques. In him, I see a different approach to survival. Time has quickly passed, and it's now the 74th day. Today is his son's birthday, and here he has long endured solitude and freedom. He starts to miss his family. To celebrate his son's birthday today, William went outside and lit a fire. He planned to have a hearty meal today. To mark his son's birthday, he considered using it as a reason to treat himself to a feast. Surprisingly, he just took the fish head, returning the rest to the ice storage. Knowing the wilderness won't offer daily meals, he preserves the meat. It is his hope for survival in this harsh land, so naturally, he wouldn't have any. Anxious on a day without food, a clear water fish head was satisfying to William. William found it incredibly delicious. On the 77th day, William continued as usual. He felt warmer by the fire outside than inside the shelter, despite the heavy snowfall. Occasionally, he would check the traps, but as the Arctic winter grew colder, catching rabbits is getting harder. After resetting the snares and traps, William checked the fishing lines on the ice, but neither the traps nor nets produced any catch today. This didn't dampen his spirits, highlighting the value of his ongoing food storage efforts. On the morning of day 79, William woke up in the shelter feeling grateful for having spent a very comfortable night. The warmth of the small cabin exceeded his expectations. Restful nights significantly boosted his spirits, while his primary focus continued to be stockpiling food. He hopes to catch more fish and rabbits. When he goes to check the traps, luck favored the man who worked hard for food daily. The snare caught a snow hare, and William promptly started processing the rabbit meat back at camp. Rabbit meat is low in fat, and in the cold winter, the body needs sugars and carbohydrates the most. Yet fat primarily converts into sugars and carbohydrates. If one only eats protein, they might starve. So William didn't preserve the rabbit like he did with the fish, but chose to savor a hearty meal. He was certain a moose would be hunted this season. To secure victory, he needed to stockpile plenty of meat to stay competitive with the others. This might be the fundamental reason why William has been storing food since the beginning. On the 83rd day, William reached the most important turning point of the season. Contestant Tim couldn't handle the wait any longer. Even with moose jerky to eat, the money, loneliness, and endless waiting felt pointless to him. So he chose to withdraw from the competition. Tim's withdrawal meant William became the season's champion. However, by the 84th day, William was looking at his family's photos in the shelter. At this moment, his heart began to waver. Unsure of how much longer he had to wait to win, he began to miss his family, lonely. Instead, he chose not to starve, but took out a large piece of fish for lunch. Had Tim managed to save his last jerky until day 100, he might have beaten William for the win. During William's medical checkup, the crew declared him the winner. In fact, during the interview with the crew, his wife quietly walked up behind him. When he heard his wife say he had won, William could no longer contain his excitement. The pair hugged and shed tears. From start to finish, William didn't fight against the wilderness. He calmly walked alongside it. Wind and snow tested him. Hunger challenged him. Loneliness honed him. But he used stored meat. With consistent routine, he transformed night into day. William stayed focused and strategic, prioritizing food storage for survival. Although he didn't catch a 1,000-pound moose like Tim, nor did he catch such a big fish like Dub. William's process of trapping grouse truly amazed me. The truly strong person isn't the one who wants the most, but the one who lasts until the end. All right, this concludes this episode. If you enjoy watching this series, feel free to like, subscribe, or tip me. Your support drives me to keep creating. Catch you in the next episode.